welcome to another edition of The Meaning of the Minds. I am the Great Bodini.
And I'm Sir Lance.
The only anti-elitist show on the internet.
Yes,
Stokers,
sir.
It's been a little minute, man. What's been going on in the world today?
It has been a minute. You know, there's a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting releases that have happened, a lot of projected dates that we thought, an album's going to drop, and then it doesn't drop. But I'll get to that.
And also, we also have, you went to see a legendary show, the Mooch.
Yep, and it's the topic of the day.
And the Mooch also went and seen the biggest thing.
The biggest, grandest stage of them all. Wrestlemania.
That's right. So, but until then, what's going on in the news?
Well, first things first, this was the first bit of news that I actually saw since last time recorded. Royal Blood, hard rock duo, teasing new music for a sophomore album, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Their debut album, in my eyes, was pretty good.
Yeah.
Kind of lackluster in some spots, but there's a lot of strong material, at least to keep it, at least listenable. I listened to it a few times before. I was like, all right.
It's kind of like Death from Above, 1979, with the drums and the bass.
Imagine something like that with the Black Keys.
Yeah.
They're very bluesy, but it's like vampire blues in a way, if you know what I'm saying.
And I get a lot of people who, there's fans like, we loved it, and then there's people like, hey, stop comparing them to this band or stop comparing them to that band, and they fucking suck, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another group that's teasing towards new music is a British indie pop outfit, LCD Sound System. Now, if you don't know LCD by now, you've kind of been sleeping in the whole indie pop field because they're the biggest in the game right now, at least to me.
But didn't they stop? Didn't they?
They
They stopped for years and then they came back.
There was a hiatus after they dropped that live album, and then they just kind of fell off the face of the earth for a minute, and then they came back, started touring, and now there's this. They played new music. I think it was at Glastonbury or something. I don't know. Or maybe they're set to actually play Glastonbury. But they played new music at a recent show, and I guess shocked everybody. So we'll see where this goes. I'm hoping the album's good. I love, a whole bunch of albums of theirs.
It's okay. I mean, I've listened, ever since we became friends, like I said, there's been many bands that you have, said, hey, check these out, and one of which was LCD Sound System. I've checked some of the stuff out. It was okay. I mean, I think it would be better if there was at least one guitar in it,
Some of the early stuff does have guitar work, more prominent guitars than what's now. It's very, very electronic driven at this point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is an interesting tidbit. Snoop Dogg is going to induct Tupac into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
He's already inducted Tupac into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, he already did that?
That was Friday.
Okay, see, I missed that. See, that's how long it's been since we recorded. I wrote this note down and I didn't even realize that happened.
Steve Perry was actually the first time in 20-something years that he actually stood on stage with Journey. Unfortunately, he didn't sing. There was this whole thing going through the day, is he going to sing or is he not going to sing? It was first thing in the morning, he's not going to sing. And then it was at 4 o'clock, he's going to sing. And then it was 7 o'clock, he's not, he's going to sing. And by the time he went out, it was no, the new guy's going to sing. But it was pretty cool when it was the end, when they were doing the big jam. And Neil Young was supposed to induct Pearl Jam into the Hall of Fame, but he got sick. So they kind of did a little ode to Neil. They played Rockin' in the Free World. There was Journey and Pearl Jam was on the stage. And I seen this picture, man. And Eddie goes right over to Neil Sean and he puts his forehead on his forehead. And Neil's just rocking out and Eddie's just there in the glory. And I'm like, that's the power of Eddie Vedder, dude. He just can do that.
Yeah, I know.
And that just speaks so much to me. And I was even thinking, I was like, Eddie Vedder likes Journey. Or at least Neil Sean, anyway.
I love knowing that artists artists that I really am invested in. Also, other music that I enjoy, because it's okay, now I see where they're coming from a little more. Even it kind of amplifies it in a way.
But now, I did see that Geddy Lee, him and Alex both inducted into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if Alex is on stage, but I know Geddy
came on and played with them, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm wondering, because I did hear that John Anderson, Rick Wakeman, and I'm not sure who the guitar player was, but they're going to tour behind Yes. And I'm thinking, well, now that Rush ain't doing anything, what if Geddy was just to go ahead and join Yes? Join Yes in that Chris Squire position. you know. Oh, Steve Howe. Steve Howe is going on tour with them too. Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman, and John Anderson.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if Getty is like their secret weapon right now and they just drop the ball on us? Dude, I've seen them once.
You saw Yes?
And, yeah.
Wow.
It was a free show in Orlando.
Nice.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, there was one recently for Bret Michaels.
Yeah, I saw Cheap Trick that way.
Cheap Trick played, yeah.
On my birthday one year.
Joan Jett and the Blackhearts did one too.
Yeah. And I think today that radio station MMO, they supposedly were going to release the new free concert that's coming here soon. So I didn't hear who it was, but you know, Hall of Fame, dude. I mean, there was Joan Baez went in, Tupac went in, and it was pretty dope. It was like Snoop Dogg was up there, and you know they were boys, man. You know that they were on Death Row together. They sang on some songs together.
I know.
You know that was really emotional for him to do that.
Yeah, heavy stuff, man. And it would have been awesome to see Neil induct.
Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, we had Letterman instead, and you know, Letterman kind of looks like you know, Santa Claus now. He has like this fucking beard that's like down to his fucking chest now, and it's like that's Letterman. But from what I've heard, I didn't hear all the induction speeches, but from the overview that I heard, you know, Letterman did a great job by inducting them into it. And then Dave Kushner came in, or Dave Kushner was there, and so was the dude. The guy was in Chili Peppers, Jack Irons, because Jack played on No Code and he also played on Yield, but he didn't. He didn't get the award, and neither did Dave Kushner. And I guess that shit's changed over the years because, like I said, when Funkadelic and the Parliament got inducted, all of them got inducted. It wasn't just P-Funk; it was Parliament, and there was at least like 13 people on stage, and there was another 5 or 6 people who are dead or didn't make it, you know, into the show.
Yeah.
So, and that's what kind of pisses me off. I mean, Dave Kushner played on, the first 3 Pearl Jam albums? You know, 10 Verses and Vitology. Why in the hell would he get inducted?
The golden streak for them.
Yeah, why the fuck wouldn't he get inducted in with the band? You know, that makes no sense.
Those albums put them where they are.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, and he was there. They showed him, like, you know, a picture with his kid and Eddie and stuff, or the other guys. But the one thing I want to bring up before we get off topic here, or we go back on the topic, but that Jeff Ament shirt.
Yeah,
that was a fucking dope shirt. That was probably the best. Well, next to like when James Hetfield went up with Metallica and started naming off bands, you know, like Deep Purple hadn't been inducted at that time, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. But then I was looking because it showed Jeff's shirt, and you've seen all the names on his shirt, and every single one of those fucking people are eligible to be in the Hall of Fame. Faith No More, Bad Brains, Husker Du. I mean,
Dinosaur Jr.,
Jane's Addiction. There was some ELO, not ELO, but Emerson, Lake and Palmer, King Crimson. These bands are, you know, even I don't know. I don't think Peter Gabriel's been inducted as in like a solo artist, and I know he went in with Genesis. But not by himself yet. So, but that was because you sent me that text, and I was like, yeah, I read that. I thought that was pretty dope.
It is.
And then they've been also acting like they were going to maybe sell it on Facebook or something like that. Maybe like make reproductions of it. I'm like, I'd buy it. I'm like, fuck you to the
buy 10.
Yeah,
it was, you know, whatever.
There you go.
But more new releases actually that are happening. German industrial outfit Rammstein this is according to like one of the guitarists in the band or something like that, but 35 songs in near finish for the new record. It's 35 songs. I mean, it has been a while. Like, I think their last album came out like 2012, 2013, something like that. And it was interesting, but it didn't really click with me like some of their other albums.
The Mooch is a big fan of Rammstein.
I wish I could have seen them when they were here in Florida years ago.
Yeah,
I know. I wasn't a huge fan at the time, which sucks.
I know.
But, I mean, I hope they tour big with the new album. If they have 35 songs, does that mean there's going to be a majority of them? Does that mean it's going to be a double album, or is it going to be like 12 of those songs?
Yeah, but remember with Mastodon, we heard that was going to be a double album too, and it just turned out to be one single album.
Well, things happen with that too, and actually, we're gonna talk about that briefly in just a little while.
Yeah,
Queens of the Stone Age, whew, man, dropping those fucking teasers, man. We're starting to get teases now, okay? We're going into this field because since we last recorded, there's been a lot of interesting music releases. Like I said that at the beginning of the show and I wasn't fucking around. Queens of the Stone Age just posted like a new Q logo thing, 25. Does that mean we're getting an album on the 25th?
Yeah, but then again, I don't know.
A single?
Yeah, but then again, I seen like the next day after the Q on Instagram, Josh, I think it was Josh, had posted some on Instagram when it showed Rated R. It was like the CD cover, not the CD cover, but the actual CD of Rated R, and then the actual CD of Songs of the Deaf. Everybody's like, what does this mean? What are they going to do? Are they going to play the albums live? And I said, well, the only thing I can think of is they're finally going to reissue Songs of the Deaf like they did for Rated R, how they did the deluxe stuff with Rated R. Now I guess, that's the only thing I'm taking from it, and I want that.
Yep.
I've been dying for a reissue of Songs for the Deaf. I want all that live shit. That
and
was
the B-sides. So
my God.
The Rated R, like Rated X reissue thing had like 3 or 4 B-sides that nobody had heard of until then.
Well, even that cover of Remeo Void, Never Say Never, that wasn't even recorded during those sessions. That was like one of the first songs that they did way back in the day.
Like back when they had that split with the Bronze.
Yeah.
Or not the Bronze, but it was... Oh, wait. No, one of the songs on that EP was the Bronze.
Right.
It was Beaver, I think. Beaver was the band that they did that first split with. After the Kaya split. Because it was Kaya's Queens of the Stone Age and then that. But, man, I'm excited for whatever this is. Whatever they say. If it's on the 25th or not, I don't know what the hell 25 means.
I don't know. And then also, you had mentioned there's no guest on this, but I read, I think this morning, that Josh should tease like a new single is going to be out very soon. And people are like, when are you going to start, when's the tour going out? And motherfucker broke his hand, so obviously it's going to be a little while. You can't play the guitar with a broken hand.
Speaking of teases too, I'm thinking about Tool. They just posted a really obscure picture of like a crop circle thing with their logo and 0624. Again, completely obscure, just like Queens.
But if you look at it, it's also I've looked at the date, and the date actually follows on a Saturday. So, because a lot of people are like, is that when their new album's going to drop? And then you're reading it, it's like, well, Tool's not like any other band. If they want, like that one cat you were talking about who, like, dropped his album on Sunday morning, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's been a lot of talks that Tool's going to go on iTunes, Spotify, any of the digital media outlets.
Last I heard, Maynard was like 110% against all of that.
Well, that's not what I've been listening the last 2 weeks, is it's everywhere. And I could see, especially with the new album, them doing something like that, like dropping the album like Monday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. Here you go, new Tool album, like on iTunes.
I could see it. I could see them doing that. Hardcore. And that's a big thing now.
But I'm surprised.
If you notice, surprise album releases are like the thing now. I would say it starts with Death Grips, because they just dropped that No Love Deep Web album out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, that's what I was telling.
And if you'll notice, it's kind of weird, but they're really good friends with Beyonce. Beyonce did that. Just, here's my self-titled album out of nowhere. And I feel like that started this huge trend of, let's just record an album, and the internet is so accessible, we're just going to put it out there and freak society out. The world's just going to stop because I'm this big, artist, and here's the new album. I don't blame them for doing that, because sales will just skyrocket if it's immediately available right
now.
Well,
it's funny because cutting this. Well, it's not. We're not cutting the topic, but you and I had talked. I think it was either Thursday or Thursday or Friday, and I said, if there's anything else that I see, I'll send it to you. And sure enough, that night was when I seen about the Queens of Stone Age logo, and Jack White dropped a new fucking song right out of the fucking blue, dude.
Well, since we're talking about the Jack White song, I think it's very whatever, because I listened to it and it's 2.5 minutes. Okay, so I'm like, it's just gonna be a burst of energy. There's that like one guitar passage that sounds like righteous because it's so thick, but then it just goes back to this really. It's not boring because it's soft or anything. It's boring because I don't know what he's trying to do. If the album sounds like that, I hope it's more like okay, here's a song that sounds like this, but I made it into like a full-fledged song.
Yeah, and then of course
because there's good ideas there, but it's so short and kind of boring in some parts. It doesn't make me want to go buy the single.
Right. Well, then there's also those people who were like, we didn't him. This is just kind of like out of the blue. He didn't say he was. Is he just this one song, or is he working on an album? But I believe it was about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I got the word, or I read somewhere that he was in the studio creating new music. So I don't know if that was just the one song or if that's a new album. But we haven't actually had a full-fledged Jack White album since what?
Since
13.
Lazaretto?
Yeah, that was either 12 or 13.
The LP for that is nice because if you shine a light on it, like in the dark, the middle ring, it's a hologram. It comes up as an angel. It's kind of crazy.
Well, the middle ring has songs on it too.
He's on the other side though.
Yeah,
so it's the inner ring. Like
because he said that on. He showed us that. Well, us, but when I was watching Conan, that's where he showed it, was at Conan, and just seeing the angel, and he's like, if you take the needle and put it like right here in the middle, there's a song.
It plays it backwards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was like, only Jack White could come up with something like that, and then like he had this other idea. One of the things he's thinking about is like making an album that I don't know. It's just like there's like each crevice, there's like 6 songs, or something far-fetched, something that's like really out there.
That might be pressed horribly though.
Yeah,
because if there's too much on one disc, I mean, you can only fit 20 minutes on an LP technically.
Really?
It's like 20 some odd minutes.
So that's why. Okay, so that explains why Echoes was only one side of metal. That explains a lot.
But yeah, that Jack White single is okay. I'm not trying to trash it or anything.
No, and I'm not trashing either. But like I said, like I was more taken away with that fucking badass riff because it's always that way with me and Jack. Like I always expect him to forget where he comes from, and then I hear something like that, and I think, Jack loves distortion. He loves loud guitars. He likes balls to the wall riffs. So I should never question him on that because, like I said, what was that? Highball Stepper. The first song that was off of Lazaretto, it was like, 2-3 weeks? It was like #1 single on the internet, like blew all these fucking, and it was just an instrumental. But then you hear it in concert, and it's badass.
That's true.
It's just a badass song.
What else? Kendrick Lamar. See, in the beginning of the episode, it said, some people said they were going to drop something, and then nothing happened. Kendrick Lamar drops a song called The Hard Part 4, where the last line he says is, and I quote, "Y'all have till April 7th to get your shit together." And it's just 5 minutes of him just rapping like crazy, like just bars. And so I was like, okay, all right, April 7th, something's happening. And it turns out it's just a pre-order. It's just a pre-order for the album coming out this week, actually, coming out on Friday. But it gets even worse because, okay, so he drops a single right before that happened. Another single. It's called Humble. It's pretty, like, very lo-fi beat, but it's kind of catchy. And it's a fun song. It's a fun song, but it's so bad because I'll even show you right here. It's just called Album, and it's track 1, track 2, track 3, and there's a single Humble right there.
Yeah.
And it goes till track 14.
No.
So, it's laughable, man. Did he include that verse in an actual, like, promotional track for a pre-order for the album? That seems kind of backwards to me.
And when's that album come out?
This Friday, April 14th.
Okay.
A week after the date that he said in a promotional song.
I was going to say, because, like, I remember, I don't remember exactly who it was, but somebody had, said, like, oh, we're putting out an album out, and then you go to look at the songs, and it was just tracks, like track 1 through 10. And the actual names didn't come out until, like, the day it was released, because I'm like, what am I going to call this? Oh, track 1. Oh, we're listening to track 1.
Yeah.
It's something really fucking retarded. It's like, okay. But then when the album came out, it was like, oh, here's the track listings.
Yep, exactly. So I don't know. He's just gonna drop the bombshell on Friday, I guess. I'm looking forward to it still.
Yeah.
Because the singles have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's in my eyes, he hasn't done any wrong. This is the same guy that did To Pimp a Butterfly, and that's to me like a modern day rap classic. It's gonna go down as an album that influenced just as great as an album like Straight Outta Compton or, you know.
You talked
All
about
Eyes on Me.
You talked about that album many times.
It's jazz influence. Just I can't even put it into words. Like he keeps reciting a poem between each song that he adds something to the next time he recites it, and then it ends up being a conversation that he's having with Tupac.
That's more interesting.
Exactly. And another act to just drop stuff out of nowhere was Gorillaz. And okay, because we've been talking about this for a while.
Oh,
Obviously, it's been leading up to this. Ever since we last recorded, they've dropped 5 songs.
Yeah.
4 of which came out at the same time. And we got the album name, we got track listing, we got a release date. Now, I want to ask you first. What did you think about the 4 songs that came out initially?
I mean, it's different from at least, you know, in my opinion. Then again, I didn't listen to Plastic Beach, and since then I've listened to it a little bit here and there, but it's nothing like Demon Days or the first Gorillaz album. This one, it seemed like it was more club feel. Like, it's definitely one of those albums that, yes, it's by an quote unquote alternative band, but it's accessible to go into the club and listen to that shit, you know? And it's alright, man. I mean, out of the 4 songs, I think Damon showed up once or twice, but like at the end, and it wasn't until the final song where he actually got to sing. And I like that one better because, you know, Albert's singing it, you know, so I like that one better. But it's one of those ones, dude, where, like how you said before with the Mastodon thing and Show Yourself, it's best if we take the album when it first comes out and do a forward listening all the way through, and then do like our own, like, what do you think? Because as far as it sits right now, I'm not a fan. Like, I'm really like, you know, like I said, I would rather go back and listen to the first 2 Gorillaz albums and think about that. But I did tell you that you didn't. No, I didn't tell you. You told me that when they do the Gorillaz festival, all the people that were on that album are playing at that festival. Mm-hmm. So that means
you got Danny Brown, you've got
Noel Gallagher,
you've got Vince Staples,
De La Soul.
Speaking of that, the Vince Staples track is actually my favorite one of the 4 that were released, and then there's the 5th one that's out now too with G-Eazy and I forget the other person, but
and you did
that
hear
one's
folks,
the same feel.
And you did hear me say Noel Gallagher because back in the day, Oasis and Blur fucking hated each other. I mean, like, literally, like, almost, I think he might have came to blows once or twice.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They fucking hated that. So, at least Damon and Noel were able to bury the hatchet. And, you know what, as far as, you know, I know how you feel about Oasis, but Noel was the man in that band. That was his band. You know,
I think it'll be interesting.
It's like The Who and, you know, Pete Townsend.
I'm noticing that with this new Gorillaz album, the emphasis is the guests in like Damon's atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? So the Vince Staples track, I think, is the best one of the 4 that came out initially because I think that's the only one of those 4 that really there's a balance between, okay, here's the guest and here's Damon. I feel like they play off each other very well. Couple of tracks, I feel like the guest stands out too much. And in the track with Dram, dude, I can't even hear the guest. It's all Damon.
What was the video where it looked like the asteroids were hitting Earth? It sounded like it was like kind of like an end of times thing.
Oh, that was another song that's on this album, but it came out before. Like, remember we were talking about the tease? Like,
right.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
we had no idea if it was going to be on this new album, and it turns out that it is going to.
I kind of like that. That song had a little. I kind of dug that a little bit, but
it was very off tempo. The lyrics were deep. Like that. That's another great track that I think is going to make this album. But like you were just saying, we have to see the context first.
Right. And I also brought. Did you get my message today, or was it yesterday, about the Good, the Bad, and the Queen are going to be doing another second album?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You were telling me about that.
Yeah, well, no, I just told you about the band, and then it was like today or yesterday, it was like, oh, Damon and the boys are getting back together for a follow-up to the... I'm like, damn, really? That's a long-ass time, but okay, whatever.
I know. It's kind of ironic. You just bring it up, and then boom, there it is.
I was freaking out, too. I said, did I...
It's worth checking out, that album. It's good. It was their only album, I guess, until now, but, you know, we'll see where that goes.
Paul Cinnamon from The Clash is on it, so kind of... That was, like, one of the first things he's done in a very long time. Like, no, I don't think Paul's done very much.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really it for news. I did want to go over some of the recent releases I think are worth mentioning or worth your time. Starting with the new Paul Bearer album is my favorite metal album of the year. I think it's their best work yet, for sure. I saw them play one of the songs live when I saw them with Baroness. I think it's Thorns because it was kind of short, and that's like the shortest song on the album. It's heavy. They implement a whole bunch of new sounds. I like where they're going. I want them to keep going this way. Great album. Magnetic Fields, indie pop outfit, released 50-song quote-unquote memoir album.
Wow.
And it's the singer Stephen Merritt. It's the past 50 years of his life. Like, each song is a year. So it'll say, like, 67 titled this, 68 titled this.
Oh, I gotcha. That's pretty cool.
I don't think those are enough songs.
Yeah.
Right, and then, like, last between, like, 2 to 5 minutes, like, you know, that's the range of each of these tracks. So right now, like, if you go stream it on Spotify or something, there's only, like, select songs.
Oh, I gotcha.
But you can buy the album on iTunes.
Sounds
or
like
you
a
can
concept
get, like,
album, almost.
It does.
It's like a literal concept album
Yeah.
because it's his life.
Exactly,
You know?
and I like that.
You can also get it on a CD box set or 5 LP vinyl box set.
Gotcha.
So, I liked it. I listened to the whole thing one time, and then I listened to selections again, and I liked it. It's very enjoyable. I want to revisit it again. Like, dude, that is such a long album.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours. I think maybe even a little more, but it's good. It's good. Mike Will Made It rapper album is the Ransom 2 sequel to his first album Ransom. Very good. Check it out. A lot of great features. A lot of great it gets kind of stale towards the end just a little bit, but I think that's only because I'm kind of hearing some of the same sounds kind of rehashed and going in one ear and stuff, but it's still pretty awesome. Joey Badass, that's a rap album that I think is definitely worth your time. It's probably the best rap album to come out this year. I see it very reminiscent to an album like aforementioned To Pimp a Butterfly, because there's a lot of jazz sounds, there's more melodies. It sounds kind of like, there's some songs where I'm like, holy shit, am I like in a Southern Bible Belt church right now?
Right.
It's so soulful, but like, it's really good. It's called All American Badass. It's sick.
I love soul.
All American with the KKK.
Oh,
But it's crossed out, and he's just like hanging out a car window or something. It's good. And, oh man, I never in a day in my life thought I'd be talking about this guy, but dude, and you might even make fun of me for this. So out of nowhere, I start hearing like, this single's really good, check it out, and I started listening to it, and I'm like, it's an indie pop song. It almost sounds like a Brit rock ballad almost. Very glamorous sounding. And I'm like, who is this? Harry Styles of One Direction. It's so weird. Dude, I never thought he had it in him to do something like this. It's worth just, ignore everything I said and just listen to the song.
it's funny because like about the last week, only thing I've been seeing is like Harry Styles this, Harry Styles that. Like he's every fucking where. He's even in the new Christopher Nolan movie. The new it's like a World War II movie. Christopher Nolan did. He's
Oh
gonna be in
yeah,
that movie,
that's right.
which I didn't even notice it was him. And then somebody's like, "What's up with Harry Styles? Why did Christopher Nolan put Harry Styles in this fucking movie?" And I'm like, I was, because I'm not into that One Direction shit. I'm not into none of that stuff. So
That's why I was saying I never thought I'd bring this guy up. But
so, like, I'm sitting there with people at work, and I'm like. I said, who's Harry Styles? And then they look at me like I'm a moron, like, you don't know who Harry Styles is? I'm like, no. And they're like, One Direction. I'm like, oh, fuck. That shit sucks. No wonder. Keep it. And then they want to tell me, like, no. I don't care.
There is something I have to dismiss, though. I've been seeing a lot of headlines because of the single that are all like, oh, he's the new David Bowie. Stop right there. You can't say something like that off of one song. I think it's... Okay, if I'm going to draw comparisons from this song to any David Bowie album, I would say that it's kind of reminiscent of Hunky Dory. But maybe even some parts of Ziggy Stardust. But...
There was a recent picture, not recent picture, but there was a picture I seen like a couple days ago, and it was Bowie walking down the street, and it says, "Oh, Bowie tells tells the news people that they're number one." And I'm looking at this picture, and I'm like, okay. And then I look down, and he's giving them the finger as he's walking by the street, like he's just walking, and like he like slips the finger right down, and it's like, "Fuck you." I'm like, only Bowie could do something like that.
The movie you're referring to is actually called Dunkirk.
Dunkirk, yes.
Yeah.
It's based on a true story. It was, I'm not exactly sure.
I was thinking
people.
That's right.
I think it was when people were
Dunkirk evacuation.
Yeah, and dude, it's gonna be one of those sad movies, dude. It's definitely gonna be one of those
Is
movies
it like Saving Private Ryan, like
kind of like yeah. Well, it's gonna be one of those movies that like you watch and you might not watch it for another 10 or 20 years, but then you see it and you're like, oh, that's great, you know.
That's how I feel about Requiem for a Dream.
I would never watch Requiem for a Dream, and just like I only seen American History X one time. I never want to see it again.
What is that?
American History X? That's the one with Edward Norton where he plays as a skinhead. And Edward Furlong's his brother from Terminator. Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go look because...
It was definitely one of those movies that, like, especially the ending, when it got to the ending, and I'm like... And the way it ended, I remember looking at my cousin, I'm like, I need to go fucking take a shower. I need to take a walk. Like, I literally... Like, humankind, or just humans in general, sometimes we are fucking idiots. That's what I take from it. People are fucking morons.
Yeah.
We kill in it. No.
It's sad but true, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's movies like that, you watch it, okay, is it good? Sure. Is the message good? Yeah. I'm never watching that.
No. It's like Schindler's List. I mean, I watched Schindler's List twice in history class, and every time I watched it, I remember I was sitting there just crying, and my teacher came up to me, and I was just like, like holding it back, and she came over and she put her arm on my shoulder, and I was like, and then of course at the end I'm starting to bawl, and I'll admit it. I mean, because the fucking movie is fucking sad. It's one of those.
It is. It's a really touchy subject.
Yeah, very.
It is.
It's fucked up.
But yeah, don't read a headline that says Harry Styles is the new David Bowie.
Yeah, no. Fuck that.
I think maybe this could be a good beginning from
only person who could ever be
one.
Only person ever come close to being Bowie is Trent Reznor.
Yeah, just in a very industrial way.
Exactly.
So moving along, Perfume Genius, another pop outfit from the UK, drops a single album announcement. Check it out; it's awesome. Trey Songz new album, Future Island single, local native single, Timber Tammer, Canadian indie folk, like almost country blues type of thing. Released an album that's very ambient.
Interesting.
I don't think it's better than Hot Dreams, but I like it. It's called Sincerely Future Pollution. Definitely recommend it. Check it out. It's kind of creepy. Like, I think a lot of their music's pretty and folky and it's kind of sweet on the ears, but then there's moments that just creep up on you and it makes you a little antsy and a little uncomfortable. I love that. New album's good. Not their best, but it's awesome. Frank Ocean single with Tyler, the Creator, and Jay-Z. Interesting new track actually dropped today. So check that out. I've only heard it one time. I think it's pretty good. He's doing something interesting there. I think the Jay-Z feature is not necessary, but he works well with Tyler. I mean, he works well with Tyler, and they've been working together for a long time. So
just out of curiosity, when was the last time Jay-Z dropped a record?
Wasn't that with the New York song? Oh, no. There was another one after that. There was one more, but I think it's been a little while. I mean, you got to think, like, he's also married to Beyonce, but Beyonce put out that album that really gave him a whole lot of baggage to carry because he's a shitty person to her.
Yeah.
And then
Is he really?
And then all of a sudden now Beyonce's pregnant with twins.
Yeah.
Which is why she had to cancel her performances at Coachella, and I think it was Lady Gaga who stepped in. Boy, there was people making memes about Beyonce having her babies on the stage.
I did read, like, I don't know, it wasn't on April Fool's Day or anything, but I did read that supposedly, at least from Lars, that Metallica's planning on making a new album with Lady Gaga by 2019. At least that's what their idea is. They want to do a collaboration with Lady Gaga by 2019.
That might be cool, dude.
I know it's going to be cool. I seen that performance. I thought it was pretty dope. I mean, besides James might not working and getting really fucking pissed.
He probably walked back that stage and
he's
shoot
like
somebody's ear off.
He probably did. But like, hey, we were here before that fucking bitch was. We were out kicking ass before when she was still like in her mama's woo woo.
Yeah,
we're fucking legends here.
Yeah.
She's not.
Yeah, last album that Jay-Z came out with was back in 2013 with Magna Carta, Holy Grail.
That's right. That one was alright. It was decent. Not as good as Blueprint. Definitely not as good as the Black Album. And not Metallica's the Black Album.
Right.
Which is
Different
kind of
Black
ironic.
Album.
Yeah.
But, it's alright. What else? White Reaper. They remind me a lot of... The Resonance. Mm-hmm. Check it out, dude. The new album came out. I think it's called The Great American Band or something like that. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Very cool album. Kind of short. I was surprised at how short it was, but it's good. Father John Misty, acoustic solo artist, new album.
What do you think about Father John Misty? I've been digging some of his stuff lately. Like I'm not familiar with it, but some of the stuff that I've seen with him, like he rocks, man.
I recommend listening to the new album, Pure Comedy.
Okay.
Really, oh man, and it's very much in line with the times that we're in. It's kind of tongue in cheek in a way because the song names and the lyrics are very straightforward, very not too hard to read into. So I would recommend that, and I Love You, Honey Bear is a great album too. Okay. A little bit lighter than the new album because the new album's kind of dark in some spots. I mean, there's a song called Ballad of the Dying Man that even got me like,
holding the chest.
Yeah. It's powerful stuff. And the opening track, which is the title track, is like 7 minutes of it builds and 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 then it just kind of glimmers out. They're like a ray of hope almost because it's just so intense and then it's like a huge weight off your chest. I liked the album. I need to listen to it again, but from what I was hearing, it's awesome. It might even be his best yet, but I gotta go revisit some of the other stuff too.
Right.
Blondie put out a single in the longest time, announced an album.
And she's going on tour with I think she's going on tour with the Pretenders.
Yeah. Yep. And they're coming around here, which is cool. Lil Uzi Vert, rapper, put out a new project too. It's okay. Yeah. And then Mastodon. Yeah. So new Mastodon album.
Perf Sand.
Who wants to take a first turn? You want to go first? Because I know we all. This is one band where we all are big fans.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which is more or less the reason that was our first actual topic.
Yeah, of course it was. I've listened to the album a couple times since it came out, and it's a good album. It really is. It's the best since Crack the Sky. Is it better than Crack the Sky? Like everybody has been saying, no. It doesn't even come close. Is it a good album? Yeah, it's a good album. The vocals, I love the vocal styles. How they said, I think Brendan said that this is the best vocally album that Mastodon's done. I have to agree.
A lot of emphasis on the vocals.
Big time. And I've even brought it to you before that Braun has definitely stepped up and proclaimed, he is definitely a singer now. He was a singer before, but since Crack the Sky, he's done more singing. Like, I'd even say, he didn't even sing on the first 3 records. Maybe backing vocals, so he didn't do anything as a lead vocalist, any kind of that in sense, or until
Crack the First taste we got of that was Oblivion. When Oblivion came out,
And I remember when that first came out, I'm like, Braun can sing. Okay, interesting, okay. But The tracks, the songs, they're good. It's for me, it's best as one piece, like as an album. Like I don't like listening to them in the sense of like, oh, I want to listen to this song, I don't want to skip this song. Like I prefer to listen to it as a whole piece, like Leviathan or Crack the Sky, Blood Mountain, whatever. You know, the best song is Jaguar God. I think you and I both agree that that's the best song. The one thing I do not like is the emphasis that there's hardly any, Brent's hardly ever around on it. He's either singing backing vocals or he might do like a solo. And how we had said before that this is more of a Bill album, as in the riffs. That is very, very much the case. What did you think?
I honestly think that it's, really good album, like you said. It's definitely really good. Mm-hmm. I really do like, all the guitar work that they've been doing, with all these songs. And I've only listened to it like a couple times, just like you did. And I just need to listen to it a little bit more so I can get a better gauge at it. But from what I can tell, really solid album. Definitely not better than Crack the Sky, because honestly, you can't really top Crack the Sky.
Nah.
But
and ever since then, since Crack the Sky, it's like the White Pony. There was before White Pony, and then there was after White Pony. Well, in the Mastodon's case, there's before Crack the Sky, and then there's after Crack the Sky.
Right.
And before Crack the Sky was modern day metal classics. Like I've said before, modern day metal classics. Ever since then, they've been trying to make their sound more accessible to listeners. They don't want to really do the proggy stuff anymore. They want to make it more straightforward rock or metal stuff, and lay off the emphasis of a story, even though this album is a story of some sorts, Mm-hmm. But like I said before, I don't think it's better than The Hunter, even though a lot of people hate The Hunter for some odd reason. I don't know why people didn't get The Hunter. I always thought The Hunter was part 2 of Crack the Sky. I thought it was just, this is where Crack the Sky ended, and then The Hunter just takes over kind of deal. That's the way
I find The Hunter a bit more listenable compared to Once More Around the Sun, in my opinion.
Well, and I mean...
Which is so funny because, I don't know. I think they're sister albums. The Hunter and Once More Around the Sun. They kind of give off the same vibe, although Once More Around the Sun to me is a little bit more on the proggier side.
Right.
But I see similarities between the two. I think Emperor of Sand is I think a step in the right direction, but it came off a little flimsy. And I'll explain why. I feel like...
Well, before you start that, I wanted to say one more thing. When Once More Around the Sun came out, like I said, I had definitely expressed that I wasn't really a fan of that album. And then they brought me back into the fold when they released the White Walkers. So I was under the assumption that was kind of like the direction they were going. Stick with the shorter songs, but still keep the ethereal, proggy element of telling a 5-minute story in a 5-minute song, and that's not what we really got on this album. I think there were some things that were different. It seemed like they were rushed. I mean, and like I told you before, I remember when they went in the studio and it was like 3 months they're already done making the album, and I questioned that. Pink Floyd used to go and be in the studio for like a year and a half. And then of course their album comes out and it's, masterpieces. So that's my thing. Why couldn't they spend more time? Then again, they were always on the road creating shit. So, I mean, I guess that's another thing.
Well, to me, I think there's.
What did you think about the album? Like on all the generals.
It feels like one thing I didn't understand about some of the stuff they said before this album was they were like, oh, well, we missed the success of Crack the Sky and we want to go back to that sound, and I think this is really going to show that we still are ambitious about the song, like the sound that they had before. And I think it shows in some songs, like Jaguar God, I think is the closest to Crack the Sky that we've seen since Crack the Sky.
And it's a very, really...
And it's not what makes it my favorite song. I think the passages are well thought out, and it's a nice coherent piece. Mm-hmm. I think tracks like Precious Stones and Scorpion Breath are all amazing, but... you know, I think the middle of the album is where it's its weakest. You know, I would say starting with this song, what is it called? See, I'm having trouble remembering some of the songs. Like, after Roots Remain, I think that streak of songs up through Roots Remain is pretty good. And then you get to, I think it's Word of the Wise or something like that. That's where it starts to become a little bit more obvious as to what they were going for with this album, because they have it almost sounds grungy, like type of like choruses that build up and sound kind of like an alternative band sort of thing, but it's just vocally. I think vocally, Brendan O'Brien was right. This is their best vocal delivery yet. Even better than some of the stuff that's on like Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky.
Yeah, absolutely.
They sound very at the top of their game that way. It almost feels like they're the Beatles of metal right now. You know what I mean? Because there was, you know, all of them sang and then Ringo sang like one song.
Right.
But, you know, they kind of went back and forth. And I think there's even some songs on this album that I feel like I don't even know who's singing at that point. Like, we were going back and forth about the I think it's like the second section, like the middle section of Jaguar God. I thought it was Brent for the longest time because he was singing like the first part of it. And turns out to be Braun. So I think they're blending their vocal delivery pretty well.
And that, to me, also, like, when I said about Jaguar God, it took me a couple listens to figure out that was actually Brent in the beginning, because I'm like, that it didn't sound like him, it didn't sound like Braun, it didn't sound like anybody. And I was thinking, I was like, well, maybe that's Bill. And then, but, you know, second or third, you know, you hear that, you know, that Brent kind of, like, hillbilly, you know, and you're like, okay, that's Brent, you know.
It's kind of like somebody speaking into an empty tin can.
Yeah.
Almost. It's more snarly than somebody like Troy. Troy's a lot deeper and guttural.
Yeah.
And Braun is, I would say, the more melodic singer of the three.
I did like the song that Scott Kelly was on. That was another great song. Which
Scorpion Breath, arguably the heaviest song on the album.
I would probably say that, like they do all the time in all their shows, they're probably going to play that one too. You know, so they're going to play all the Scott Kelly songs. You know, every time I've seen them, which has only been two times, but, you know, they've always played the Scott Kelly stuff. That's
They have.
They have to. You know, it's...
Like, when I saw them, they played Aqua Dementia, and they played Blade Catcher, which is interesting. But, yeah, they really like doing the Scott Kelly stuff. I mean, I know Blood Mounts is Crystal Skull, but just throwing one out there that was... kind of took me off guard a little bit.
And I love Aqua Dementia. That's one of my favorite Scott Kelly compositions. Or at least, well, of course, in Crack the Sky.
Crack the Sky, yeah, big time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. All in all, I mean, is it the best since Crack the Sky? I would say yeah.
Yeah. But it was a disappointment.
In some ways, yeah, man, because the stuff they were saying made me feel like, all right, I kind of buy into what they're saying right now. And some of the stuff that they did say didn't translate on the album, number one, and didn't click with me, number two. I would say, you know, one of my least favorite songs on this album is Ancient Kingdom. It literally straight one ear out the other.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's just me. Clandestiny, same thing. I don't know what they were doing on that track. It just feels like the first 5 songs and the last 3 are the really substantial part. And then there's that little middle ground.
Right.
Where...
you kind of get lost.
Were they trying to connect the major points here by adding in some filler? I mean, like you said, they didn't spend too much time in the studio.
No.
Did they just throw something together? I don't want to like make any accusations here, but I wouldn't doubt it.
And, you know, like, we don't, you know, it's one of our favorite bands, and we don't, you know, we definitely don't want to have this ever get back to one of them, like, oh, our fans think that, you know, we cheat them in the studio or anything. And that's not the case. I mean, when we got New Mastodon, I think that's good enough, but, I mean, it would have been better if they would have spent a little bit more time. I wish Brent would have had a little bit more to do on the album. It didn't seem like Brent was, like, he wasn't there.
If we're talking about specific members, I do want to point out, I do feel like this is Bill's best Mastodon.
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely.
Because, I mean, if there's one thing they were emphasizing that whole time that really did show here, it's the riffs. The riffs are great. There's some of the best riffs that Mastodon has ever conceived or penned you will find on this album. Jaguar God has namely a couple of them. It's very much reminiscent of like a Leviathan, because you know that one part where it just suddenly Bill's just ripping this crazy like little kind of solo thing and then busts into this like really ballsy like type of riff. It's really good. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Andromeda has some great riffs too. I think this is Bill's best riffage like compilation, if you will.
Definitely comes to the fold on this one.
I think there's, riffs that are very reminiscent to songs like Oblivion and Iron Tusk. I can hear those in some of these songs.
Bill, for the most part, has just more or less kind of like been like a silent partner, and then he kind of like, it's something like, hey, I'm in this band too. I gotta make my stamp on it.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's been albums that's come that he's done riffs for, but this one in particular, he came to the forefront. He was like, hey, I'm just as much of a member in this band as this guy is. And they also did bring the fact that in 17 years the band has not went through a member change, and they said that if one guy quits, the band's over. So if Brent comes up and says, hey, I don't want to do this no more, or Troy says, I don't want to do this, the band's over. So at least that's the one thing we could say about it, that they're not going to replace him with somebody who just doesn't get it.
Yep, because they're the only ones that are going to understand. They were the only ones that were there through it. I mean, if there's a fifth member of Mastodon, it's probably Scott Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he works just so beautifully with it. And if it wasn't for Neurosis, we wouldn't have been like, well, it's not that we wouldn't have Mastodon, but it wouldn't sound the same.
And he's been on every album except for Remission. Which I question that, but hey, I believe you.
Wasn't there technically a vocalist at one point during the beginning of Mastodon?
Yeah, in the very beginning, like the Call of Mastodon, there was a guy. That was more when they were more of a grindcore band. There was the 4 Hour Frogger, which they had the same guy, and then when they started I don't know. I know when they started Mastodon, it was Troy and it was the singer, but I from what I remember from the Workhorse, the singer kind of like went insane, or he just didn't want to do it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So then like Troy and Brent were like, fuck it, dude, we'll just do the singing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, another interesting tidbit. The guy from Brutal Truth is on this album.
Nice.
I think on the song Andromeda, yeah. You wouldn't really know unless you like looked at the credits. I was like, whoa, I know that name. Brutal Truth vocalist. Holy shit. That just interesting to see the kind of stuff Mastodon just like, a
very well-known grindcore band.
Yeah.
Very well. I mean, some crazy good albums. I think they've toured with bands like Trap Them and Pig Destroyer and stuff like that.
That was one of the Mad Monk's favorite bands, is the Pig Destroyer.
Maybe even Rotten Sound.
Rotten Sound, maybe. Yeah. Oh, it's a good one, dude. I don't know.
They did Pig Destroyer did a cover of In the Meantime from Helmet. And I remember the first thing I heard, it was Soulfly. I heard the version of Soulfly did, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I remember I sent it to them. I'm like, what do you think about this? And he's like, what do you think about this? And he sent me the Pig Destroyer one, and I'm like, I'll take the Soulfly version. I'm like, the Pig Destroyer just sounds, as
I love Pig Destroyer.
In the meantime,
It's grindcore. What do you expect?
But all in all, it was good, and that's honestly all the releases that I've had. I mean, it was a long list, but hey, it's been a long time since we recorded.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's definitely a few of those songs that are on that album that's going to be kick-ass to hear live. Of course, Mastodon's a better live band. I mean, they're a great studio band, but I think they're better live.
For sure.
Hint, hint, come to Florida, Mastodon.
Yeah, hint, come to Orlando.
Again, please. So being the only non-elitist show in this internet, this day and age, we wanted to shake things up a little bit with the Mooch's segment. Now, he's been mostly doing the death metal thing, and we're not abandoning that, at least not to my knowledge. But we wanted to kind of stretch our wings a little bit. Yeah. So take it away,
Absolutely.
Mooch. What you got?
Absolutely. Well, I was going to do the Morbid Angel segment if you didn't catch in the last episode of that hint. In the ending segment of that, unfortunately, due to some circumstances, we kind of had to record this episode a little later on than we normally would. So, since it's already fresh out in my mind, and because it's already been a week since it happened, I'm going to be talking about the showcase of the Immortals. It is a night forever edge in history, and I'm mentioning WrestleMania 33. which was in the Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. Honestly, this is actually my first WrestleMania that I got to attend ever. Mm-hmm. Never been there before, and also my first time being at the Camping World Stadium, which used to be called the Orange Citrus Bowl, whatever you want to call it.
The Citrus Bowl.
Yeah. And honestly, when I first got in there, the stage and the ring is fucking nice, fucking amazing. You know, in the entryway where all the wrestlers come out, it just looks. You see like a globe that kind of looks like reminiscent to the globe you see at Universal Studios, and they also had like this quote unquote roller coasters, you know, thing going through like as if it's an actual roller coaster.
Wow.
And in the middle of the ring, you know, aside from obviously being the ring, they have like this this platform right above that, and it has like a giant version of the actual ring, and it looks pretty awesome. But one things I want to talk about too, I definitely want to talk about the matches and some of the highlights that I kind of find, you know, whether it's good or bad. So the thing too about that is that this year's WrestleMania's theme, the theme song that they use is the song they use is called Green Light by Pitbull featuring Flo Rida and Lunch Money Lewis.
And didn't they come up and play that song in the beginning?
No, not in the beginning of the show. Sometime later on after the show, they came out to perform. Well, first Pitbull came out with, I think, Ziggy Marley, or something like that. They performed
I
another
saw
song.
Ziggy Marley open up for Van Halen.
Yeah, some shit like that. One of the Marleys. I don't know.
No, it wasn't Ziggy, but it was one of the Marleys.
One of the Marleys. They performed a song. I can't remember what song it is because I didn't care for that. I just wanted to see wrestling.
Of course.
And then after that, that's when, you know, Flo Rida and Lunch Money Lewis came out and performed Green Light. So basically there's a total of 13 matches. Okay. All confirmed. That happened. So I want to talk about the first three matches that happened during the pre-show. The first match that happens, which is the cruiserweight title match between the king of the cruiserweights, Neville, versus Austin Aries. Honestly, that match was really good. For being a pre-show match, it was a really good match.
Yeah, Neville's a badass.
Yes, he is, and especially with when he performs the Red Arrow, it is amazing. I have no idea how the hell he performs that without fucking up. Seriously, like if you fuck up, I'm sure if you fuck up really bad, you could really mess up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, honestly, that was a good match. It was really good. You know, basically one of the highlights is that, you know, as Austin Aries was just close to beating Neville, he performed the last chancery on Neville. And while he's holding, you know, Neville on the last chancery, while the referee wasn't looking, Neville poked Austin Aries' eye out, the same eye that he had to get surgically repaired in the socket. Oh, yeah. So while he did that, that's when he pretty much, you know, got him down and ended him with the Red Arrow, and he managed to retain the Cruiserweight Championship belt. All right. Good match. I mean, I kind of expected that because, I mean, I really would, as much as I like Austin Aries, I really would like to see Neville hold that title for a while. Especially because, I mean, the thing is, last year Neville had to miss WrestleMania because of his ankle. And that match with him and Jericho last year. Yep. That really sucked for him, honestly. But, you know, still a good match. I hope that, you know, Austin Aries wins the title at some point, but not at Mania, not right now. But second match that happened was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale. A lot of wrestlers from both Raw and SmackDown came there.
I think NXT guys too.
There were two NXT guys. One of them actually is the one of the members of Sanity, which is Killian Dane, also known as Big Damo. If you watched him in wrestling promotions over in the UK when he was very prominent at, I actually got to see him, you know, before he went to WWE for a wrestling promotion called WCPW, shortly for What Culture Pro Wrestling. Gotcha. So if you ever, you know, shout out to whatculture.com. Honestly, check those guys out. They're very knowledgeable with wrestling and everything. Very good guys, so definitely check them out. You know, it was definitely, you know, really good, you know, solid match, you know, with 33 men that attended this match.
I did hear, though, within the last week that Big Show was really pissed off at the guys because it was more or less like, you know, he's like, me and Braun, we didn't really have our time. You guys kind of.
I know. I was upset about that too because
well, they should have made a damn Big Show Braun Strowman match. Is what they should have.
Honestly, I would have hoped either Big Show or Braun Strowman to have won, especially with the momentum that Braun Strowman had the last, several months. Whether he was facing Sami Zayn or Roman Reigns. Come on. I would have expected for one of them to win.
Yeah.
But the one person that did win was Mojo Rawley. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't dislike the guy, but I would have preferred somebody a little better. But
he's definitely like one of those. Like, he's like a good guy, but he's like one of those bro kind of guys.
Yeah, that's what it is.
What's up?
Bro, yeah. Yeah, he's one of those type of guys, but...
They're like, hi, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, quick question. Was Xavier Woods there?
Yeah.
Yes, he was. He was actually with the New Day. They were actually the host of WrestleMania, the New Day.
He's a gamer.
Yeah, he's a very good gamer.
But he has his own
Up,
podcast.
down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Check him out.
I sent you that video where Rollins was calling out somebody for the video game. It was like him, Sasha Banks is in the back. I think New Day was behind him. I think maybe Dana Brooke might have been there too, and he was like, "I'm calling out this guy," and I don't know who it was. I
haven't seen that video yet, but I have to watch it.
Me and my better half were at FYE the other day, and yes, it still exists in some areas.
Yes, it does.
I love
But
FYE.
I walk in, and there's this whole section for the New Day, and they're selling Bootios.
Yes.
That's the actual cereal, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can actually buy the cereal with a T-shirt for like $25.
And like they always say, Bootios. They make sure you ain't booty.
That's great.
But yeah, but a really good highlight was that around the end, Jinder Mahal actually taunted the New England Patriots tight end, Rob Gronkowski. He was actually attending WrestleMania, and he was taunting Rob. And when he was taunting him, apparently Jinder Mahal spat on Rob's face. That's what prompted him to get out of the out of his seat and actually go after Jinder Mahal, which ended up having Mojo Rawley later on to win the entire Battle Royale. Mm-hmm. And then that was an okay match. I mean, it was all right. I mean, I would prefer somebody at least Braun or Big Show, especially with the momentum that Braun had. But who knows? We might see Braun Strowman at a main event, match at some point.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now, next match that kind of threw me off as to why it was even added into the pre-show was the Intercontinental Championship match between Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin.
Yeah, what was that? What would it be a pre-show? That should be on the main show.
Exactly, especially when it's the Intercontinental title.
Right.
A very important
It's a street
title.
fight, wasn't it?
No, just a regular fight.
Oh, was it?
It wasn't until SmackDown when it was a non-title
Yeah,
match.
I've seen
for the
that
street
one.
fight. Yeah.
And then Baron won that one, but
Baron won that one, yeah. But with this one, though, Dean Ambrose beat him with the, with the dirty deeds. Corbin did try to attempt the end of days on him at one point, but it didn't work out. So, eventually Dean Ambrose ended him with the end of days. But when I saw the match, I mean, it was okay, but you can kind of tell during that match that they weren't really trying, because I'm pretty sure they were pissed that, that they were, subjected to the pre-show and not the main card.
Yeah.
I can understand that too. So, I mean, especially if it's the Intercontinental title.
I do like Baron Corbin, man.
Me too.
That guy's a bad motherfucker, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, he's mean as hell, too.
He was a boxer, too.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I remember me and my buddy, we saw the NXT show out at UCF last year, and he was there. And, of course, there was somebody who came over from TNA, and he was debuting that night. And he was out there doing like his pose, like getting for the crowd. And all of a sudden, here comes Baron right behind.
Yeah.
Just takes him and does the end of days right out there. And you can hear the skull hit the mat.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, my God.
I can see Baron Corbin one day at least, being a headlining,
Oh, yeah.
guy.
Definitely.
I mean, whether it's Intercontinental or even the world title.
He's a brute. I mean,
Yeah,
he's definitely going to be one of those guys that's going to kick ass.
He will fuck your shit up big time. Big time. Especially the matches as he's had with Dolph Ziggler or even Kalisto.
Yeah.
Especially.
Oh,
now,
that was great stuff. With
yeah,
Kalisto.
good stuff. After that, that's when it cut to, going through the intro to the beginning of the actual, main, cards of WrestleMania. Now, before the actual intro of the show, it came out with this recording artist, Tinashe.
Mm-hmm.
She actually sang America the Beautiful. For that time. At first, people were actually booing her, and I was first thinking, like, who the fuck is this girl, and why the hell are they booing her?
Right.
It was like, and then as she was singing, I mean, she was singing when she sang "America the Beautiful." That was really not that bad. She's no Lillian Garcia, but she still did a good job. Mm-hmm. And then after that, that's when like the fighter jet planes actually flew by above the stadium.
Nice.
And it wasn't loud as hell until after they passed with
that was when the afterburners
the afterburners. I'm like, holy shit, I had to cover my ears because of how loud that was.
That's dope, dude.
Yes, it was.
Did they do a firework display?
Yeah, they did a little bit, but it wasn't. But after the introduction of WrestleMania, that's when the New Day came out, and then they did all the fireworks, and they were just pretty much.
Yes, I love them so much.
Yes, and then as they were going into the stage, they were just. They were just trying to hype up the crowd, trying to get things, going and things like that.
Yeah.
And I could have sworn I actually heard some of the fans yelling out, "Woods, fuck Paige."
Yeah.
Because if you're not aware, there has been a recent leak from Paige. She's a WWE wrestler.
It's not a leak from Paige. It's somebody who leaked Paige's shit.
Paige's nude photos and also some videos involving her and Xavier Woods and Brad Maddox having sex.
Well, now there's a conspiracy theory going on about that.
Yeah.
The fact that, where was the Alberto Del Rio stuff? If it was supposedly just Paige's stuff, why wasn't there any stuff of Alberto Del Rio?
That's a good question.
There was nothing but Brad Maddox and Xavier Woods. Now, that makes them think that Brad was the one who fucking leaked that shit.
That could be possible.
That
could be possible. But then after the introduction and all the hype from Xavier Woods, and not just Xavier Woods, but the New Day. Also, another cool thing too is that they actually the New Day actually were dressed up as characters from the new Final Fantasy game that came out, Stormblood. Some of the characters there.
Yes.
If you watch it one of these days, or even look up pictures, you'll see that they dressed up just like them. And even one of them had a chocobo on them.
Oh shit,
that's awesome. I wonder if it's modeled after like the newer chocobos that look like actual chickens, like they're like ostrich chickens almost.
No, it's like and I don't think it's like the chocobos, but it's like the little white fluffy ones. I can't think of their names. I don't know.
Oh, it starts with an M. Starts with an M. I don't remember the Moogles.
The Moogles. The Moogles. That's what I meant to say. Sorry. Now, after that, the first match of the main card was actually AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon.
Which I've seen some stuff from that. It was pretty good.
That was a really good match. I liked it. I mean, at first, I didn't like the idea of Shane McMahon versus AJ Styles. I feel that AJ Styles should have been the main event, on WrestleMania.
I mean,
but,
you remember, we've heard the rumors, and even Shawn admitted that it was actually supposed to be Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles.
At Royal Rumble.
Well,
or even at some point.
It was supposed to be Rumble, and then they thought about maybe Mania, but even Shawn said, he's like, if it was 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
But Shawn today, no.
No, that's
it's not
true.
happening.
But surprisingly, it was a really good match.
I like the one move. I seen it where AJ went, like how he jumps up on the rope to go do that forearm.
The phenomenal forearm.
Yeah, he went to go do it, and then fucking Shane put him right in like some kind of fucking submission move.
Yeah, that's what he did.
And I was like,
while he did that, and then while he was trying to get him into the submission move, he actually countered him back with a one-armed Styles Clash on him.
Nice.
That was pretty dope. That was really good. And then at some point, the referee got knocked down by one of either AJ or Shane McMahon. And then after that, that's when Styles tried to do a coast-to-coast on Shane, who countered him back with the trash can.
Interesting.
So, and then when AJ was in the corner, Shane put the trash can on him, and then that's when Shane went up and performed a coast-to-coast with the trash can on him to Styles, and almost got the match on him. But then eventually, the match ended with AJ Styles picking up the win,
right?
Which was a really good match. I love what they did, and if you watch the SmackDown after WrestleMania, they both actually shook hands, after the mutual respect for how great the match was.
And then AJ did that,
he
that,
just
and then
faked them out,
and then Shane was just sitting there like, okay, you want to go, dude?
Like, you want to go again?
And then he shook his hand again. I think he walked out of the ring.
There you go. And then now, after that, that's when the next match is going to be the Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens for the United States title match. They've been at a feud for quite some time, especially with the aftermath of the Festival of Friendship when Kevin Owens betrayed Chris Jericho.
Yep.
It was a good match. I liked it. I liked the match, especially. I like what they brought to the table, especially with both Jericho and Kevin Owens almost doing, finishers on each other, especially when the attempts of the pop-up powerbomb and the lion salt. the funniest moment I can think of is that when they did a code breaker on on Kevin Owens, when they were near the ring, just as the ref was too close to counting 3. Kevin Owens just took his hand out and just put his finger on the rope.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
even
nope.
Jericho said something about that. He's like, he used his finger. His finger.
It was just really hilarious. And then at the moment, and then when they were outside of the ring, Kevin Owens performed a powerbomb on Chris Jericho on the ring apron, which looked like it pretty much hurt his back pretty bad. And then he went into the ring, pinned him 1, 2, 3. Kevin Owens became the new United States champion.
That was his second time holding that, wasn't it?
No, that's his first time ever
Really?
holding it.
Oh, okay.
No. Even when he was facing John Cena 2 years ago, he didn't beat him at all. So
Interesting.
And then after that match, then came the Raw Women's Championship match with Bayley being the title holder, and she had to face against Charlotte, Nia Jax, and Sasha Banks in a fatal 4-way elimination match.
I liked how they did that in the very beginning, how the three of them first went right after Nia Jax just got her the hell out of there.
Yeah, like that's what I liked about it too. Is like instead of facing each other first. I mean, although there were times that Sasha, Bayley, and Charlotte, they did fight each other at some points, but the main goal was to try to get Nia Jax out of there because she was definitely the most threatening one. She was like the biggest one
she
there.
could kill all y'all.
Hell yeah! I mean, she could have been.
What did you think about that moonsault that Charlotte did? That was
really ballsy.
Yeah, and
honestly, I mean, no matter whether she's playing a face or a heel, I do love watching Charlotte.
Yeah.
In matches.
Well, and then there was a freeze frame of it, like when she was like in midair, and you could see her, and her eyes, and then the other two were like, it's just one of those moves, like beautifully captured at that precise moment.
Yes, definitely a great moment. After they eliminated Nia Jax, a little while later, Charlotte eliminated Sasha Banks, and then it just went down to just Bayley versus Charlotte.
Right.
And then they had a good match, especially with that. And then
now after Charlotte got rid of Sasha, and then when it was Charlotte and Bayley, was that a pretty long little time?
It was a pretty decent time.
Like another 10 or 15 minutes long,
maybe about 7 to 10 minutes long.
Okay, that's not bad.
Maybe. And then the way that it ended is that Charlotte collided in the exposed turnbuckle because earlier on in the match she tried to get rid of the turnbuckle to try to get one of them out.
Right.
And she pretty much got a taste of her own medicine, and she lost, and Bayley picked up the win.
Hot, dude.
Yeah, she is.
She's so hot.
She is. She's the daughter of Ric Flair, by the way, Charlotte.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Legit.
Very
and
legit.
It was up until I think last pay-per-view when she was trying to get the title from Bayley, and she was like, I'm undefeated at the pay-per-views, and then that happened, and then it's like,
honestly, now that you bring that up, I honestly wish she didn't beat Charlotte at the last pay-per-view, because it would have meant more had Bayley won the match at WrestleMania, at least not only winning the title, but finally ending Charlotte's undefeated pay-per-view streak.
Well, I had read that what the original idea was for Bayley was it was supposed to be like a Daniel Bryan thing,
right. Like
she was going to go over all the way up until Mania, and then Bayley was going to win the title at Mania. But
right.
when she won the title, back a couple months ago, I was like, I mean, that's great, but I think I would rather have won. I think it would have meant more
if she won at
Mania.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. But I mean, it was a good match overall.
But she still retained the title. So
she still retained, which is good. I mean, which is a great match.
So that means Charlotte's down. She's lost two.
She's lost two pay-per-views,
including one being WrestleMania.
Exactly. And I did like the. I do like the fact that, when Charlotte came out in her entrance, like, it was just a whole load of fireworks. Mm-hmm. And also with Bayley, when she also entered with a bunch of fireworks, too.
Yeah.
And which is really good. Now, here comes the fourth match after that. Next match after that is going to be the Raw Tag Team Championship ladder match, with the defending champions at the time being Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. And it was a B against Cesaro and Sheamus and Enzo Amore and Big Cass in that triple threat ladder match. Now, here's the kicker.
Yes.
Before even the match started, the New Day came out and they made a big announcement. they were saying that this is now going to be a fatal 4-way ladder match. Now, it looked like at first they were hinting that they were going to enter themselves into the match, but all of a sudden, the Hardy Boys theme song came in, and everybody was just flipping their shit.
Marking the fuck
They
out.
were marking out, when the Hardy Boys came out.
I mean, you could have probably been over on Church Street, or near the beach, and when the Hardys came out, you probably could have heard the fucking roar from all the way over there.
Yes, and especially with the constant delete chants that they made. Yes, that was really good. And
then they wound up winning the titles.
they wound up being the winners of the match and winning the Raw Tag Team Championships. And, honestly, that was a really good match. I actually liked it. And I love that, even no matter how old, Matt and Jeff Hardy are, they still are very ballsy with their moves in the ladder match.
Well, I didn't hear it until after, I think it was like on Monday, but I heard that going into that match, Jeff was hurt. Like, he was hurt going into that match.
He might have.
And, but, you go back and you watch that match, and, you can't tell he's hurt. That's the professionalism behind it.
There you go. But yeah, definitely good match. And, I love that, they had some good moments, especially when when Matt performed a twist of fate off the ladder on Anderson and Jeff performed a swanton bomb off a ladder to a bridge ladder on Cesaro and Sheamus.
You remember the that Mania when it was Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys, and the Hardy Boys, and Jeff got on that 20-foot high ladder, and he did that swanton onto Bubba.
Crap, that
Dude,
is
that
insane.
He even says like when he was sitting up there, if you look at his legs are buckling, and that's because he's so fucking high up, and he's like, I'm really scared.
And he's scared as I would be too.
And he did. If you notice, like when he did the swanton, he more or less just kind of like did like a little flip.
Right.
It wasn't like the full on like
Right, because you're doing it so high, and you're just holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the Hardy Boys are back.
The Hardy Boys are back, and they're going to be stronger and better than ever.
Yes, sir.
Now, as far as to when they are going to bring their broken gimmick here into WWE, that's not sure if it's going to be for a while, especially because they're currently on a lawsuit against TNA, which is where they were previously.
That's yet to be determined.
That's yet to be determined because TNA claims that they're the ones who thought of the gimmick, and then Hardy Boys saying that that they made the gimmick, which I do believe they did make the gimmick.
I do too.
Yeah. So, but hopefully it goes well for the Hardy Boys. Later on, after that match, then came the mixed tag team match. For weeks now, the Miz and Maurice has been,
making
fun of John Cena and Nikki Bella, when they're doing this spoof version of Total Bellas. I thought at first when I saw their first episode,
I thought it was him first.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Because I was fast forwarding, and I'm like, damn, I look like Cena. And then I stopped, and of course, Maurice, she's really hot, and I seen her, and I'm like, damn, it looks like Nikki. So I stopped. And then I was like, that's the Miz. I'm like, no, fuck the Miz. I hate the Miz.
No, I do like his heel, persona though. I do. You gotta admit that it is a good heel.
It is a good persona. I mean, and like I said, I'm sure the guy in real life is probably, the nicest guy in the world. He probably gave the shirt off your back. But as far as the Miz character in general, I mean, I could piss in his face.
Yeah.
Like if he was on fire, I would.
That's the point of being a good heel, ladies and gentlemen.
And just ask Triple H. Triple H is well known for walking through airports and people walking up to him and calling him an asshole. Yeah. And it's like, you do know it's scripted, right, guy? Oh, fuck you, you're a dick. And he's like walking by, like some guy to be like, asshole! Yeah. And he's like, yeah, well, you can say that over there, but I guess you wouldn't say it to my face because I'd kick your ass.
Exactly. So pretty much is going back onto this. So basically, it was the mixed tag team match with Miz and Maurice versus John Cena and Nikki Bella. Actually, the match was the guest announcer for this match was Al Roker. He actually guest announced this match as they were announcing. From the Today Show, yeah. He was actually there, and eventually it was an okay match. It was just like
It wasn't until the end.
Yeah, it ended. Before we get to that, the way that the match ended, basically, the Miz and Maurice and John and Nikki are all in the ring together. John Cena did the five knuckle shuffle. The 5 knuckle shuffle. And then they did the attitude adjustment, and then at the same time that he did the attitude adjustment, Nikki did the Rack Attack 2.0 on Maurice, and then they both pinned him at the same time. And there goes 1, 2, 3, bam, great match, bam. That's the end of the match, and it was an okay match. But the best part of that afterwards was that John Cena was giving like a really good speech, to her about their, the whole life and things like that. And that's when, out of a sudden, he went down, he got on his knees, took out the ring, and asked her to marry her.
Yeah. Now, when I seen that, and I seen that she said yes, I started thinking, I'm like, do you think that this is a ruse? Because, she's been with him, 5-6 years, give or take.
Yeah.
And the entire time, John, I want to get married, no. And either she wore him down to where, I want to, I'm in love with this girl, I want to marry her. Or, hey, this is WrestleMania, and this is definitely, something emotional. People are going to probably cry about it. It kind of it reminded me of, what was it, WrestleMania 7 when it was King Mooch versus the Ultimate Warrior, and Mooch lost, and then Sherry's sitting there beating the shit out of him, and then old Miss Elizabeth comes in there and starts beating her ass, and then she's sitting there and she's crying. He points to her, picks her up over his shoulder. I still get emotional when I watch that shit.
That was a very emotional moment. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, yes, and he's just holding his hand up and her on one shoulder, him, and it's just like, fucking Mooch, dude. Fucking Mooch.
Definitely a good, definitely a good romantic moment. I was definitely happy for them.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them, a good luck on, their marriage, and, see where it takes them from there. Now, on to the next match. We have basically Seth Rollins versus Triple H in a non-sanctioned match. Now, I'll remind you, this is basically that, Seth Rollins is injured, with that right knee. Because if you look back sometime to maybe about 2 years ago, when Seth Rollins was the World Heavyweight Champion at the time, he was undefeated for a good while. But it wasn't until a dark match where, he was facing against Kane, and when he was doing the flip somersault powerbomb from the turnbuckle, his knee caved in, and he couldn't really complete that, and he finished the match winning, but he was injured for a long time, and he had to vacate the title because he was going to be out of injury for several months.
Okay, now let's not cut the bullshit here.
Yeah.
He re-injured his knee because of Samoa Joe.
Yeah, but I'm just going back to that. I was just going back to that. Yeah,
but I also want to point out that Samoa Joe, to a certain extent, is also kind of careless. I mean, he put Tyson Kidd on the fucking shelf
with his muscle buster.
Now
move.
He still does that move, doesn't he?
No, he's doing something else.
Okay,
he's doing something.
Well,
I think because of that, he was still doing it while he was in NXT.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him and Baylor were fighting in a cage match, first ever cage match in NXT, and he did that shit off the top.
Yeah, but as soon as he got called up to the main roster, they nixed that out of the move list.
Just like the curb stomp.
Yeah,
they don't do curb stomps anymore either.
Yeah, that's why Seth Rollins does the pedigree.
Right.
Now, what I do like about this, since a lot of the times, with these matches, before these matches, they show like the video promos of their feud and things like that.
Yeah.
I do like with the feud with Seth Rollins and Triple H that they use the song "Am I Savage" by Metallica.
Nice.
On there from Hardwire. Yeah, definitely good choice of song. Now, what I do like this, I really like this match as far as that goes. I mean, there were a couple moments where, Triple H and Seth Rollins was trying to do the pedigree on each other, but they just met evenly and they just couldn't pull it off.
I remember seeing Rollins outside, wherever the announce table was, and the game would go over with the fucking chair and literally hit his leg.
Yeah, that was him the entire match, just going after his leg. Now there was even a point where when Seth was trying to get, when Triple H put him on the lock in the, on the outside of the ring, he was trying to go under the apron and look for different weapons, and it turns out he found a sledgehammer.
Right. Oh, that was okay because I seen a still of that. Okay.
Yeah, so that was the actual sledgehammer.
Nice.
Now there was an instance where Stephanie got involved, where he was trying to screw Seth Rollins over, but the second time she tried to get involved, she ended up she was in the ring apron. Right at the in-ring apron, and she got pushed back by mistake, and she ended up getting landed on the table and
now,
breaking the table.
Okay, now when we were talking about really good, good characters or being a good heel,
Yeah.
you look at the game after that happened, and he has this like.
He looks really pissed.
Like he's really like,
like,
and then he turns around
done?
and it's fucking kick right to your face, dude.
There you
go.
go.
Like I said, the game, one of the greatest, and he will go down as one of the greatest villains.
Right.
I mean, but also one of the greatest wrestlers. He's one of those kind of guys that he could sit there and you can hate him to the point where you want to jump over the barricade and go fuck him up. And then, he goes away or he turns face and he's a good guy again. And he's like, hey, we're going to war. And you're like, give me a gun. I want to go into war with you. That's the kind of like good guy he is, where you're like, I'll hate you, but when you're a good guy, I'll follow you.
Right. Right.
He's that good of a wrestler.
That's the thing about, some of the more classic and even the Attitude Era wrestlers, they know how it is, how to properly play a face or heel because they were given more freedom at the time. Whereas nowadays, you don't see that as much.
No.
You kind of see like the current wrestlers, no offense to them because they really put a good, performance out there. But especially when it comes to their promos and things like that, you kind of feel like, comparing to now and then, like they're just memorizing off a script.
Right.
It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel as natural as it, used to be.
Yeah. I mean, the thing especially about the WWE, I mean, you could be the greatest wrestler in the world, great wrestler. But if you don't have any kind of acting chops or anything like that, you're not going to survive, man.
Not at all.
You could be the greatest wrestler in your other organization, 6-time, 10-time champion. You come to WWE, you don't know really how to portray that as in like a character goes. And then, you're more or less like, oh, okay. Oh, we'll start putting him down down the line. He'll,
putting him as a jobber.
Yeah, as a jobber. It's like, dude, I was 6-time world champion in my other, and now I can barely make it. Go to acting school, fuckwad.
Yep.
That's the first thing that Hulk Hogan would tell you to do. Yeah, you can be a wrestler, but you definitely need to go to acting school.
Go take some acting lessons. Yeah. And then after that match, I mean, it ended up being that, Seth Rollins got the win because after Stephanie McMahon got crashed into the table, Rollins pretty much picked up the win by hitting Triple H with his own move, the pedigree. 1, 2, 3, end of the match.
Right.
Now, after that comes in the WWE Championship match between the then champion at the time, Bray Wyatt, versus Randy Orton. Now, in the first, in the very beginning of the match, Randy Orton tried to pull off the RKO on him. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do so in the beginning of the match because Wyatt rolled out of the ring. And during that match, whether you're watching it at home or you're at the actual WrestleMania, Bray Wyatt tried to play some mind games, on Randy Orton because they were having some different. Images of different like insects and things like that on the actual ring, whether it be like maggots, worms, cockroaches,
and
things
I've seen
that.
like when Orton came down the ring, there was a snake that like a snake that came down the ring with him.
That was awesome
now,
seeing it live.
I also wanted to bring up that I think it was somebody from a fan standpoint and then also from the WWE standpoint. I don't know if any of you guys know what the fireflies are, but when Bray comes out, lights go out, people bring out their phones, the camera lights, and it looks like fireflies.
I did that
and
too.
I've seen this video, and it's something to watch. 75,524 people put their camera lights on. That's fucking crazy.
I did that, yeah. I turned on my flashlight app on and just waved it around.
Yeah.
Just part of the fireflies. That was a good moment. Now, it was a good match. I mean, I kind of felt like it could have been longer. And it's really good for Bray Wyatt to have his moment at WrestleMania, especially entering in as world champion. But I would have liked to, and eventually it ended up being that Randy Orton gives out an RKO one more time to Bray, and he became now the 13-time world champion.
Yep. 13 times.
3 more times, and he's tying Ric Flair.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think he still holds the record for the youngest world champion.
He still does,
because it's him. Then I think before it was Brock, and then before that I think it might have been The Rock.
Right. He was the youngest. You know, technically, speaking of being the youngest, there was a time during that time when Muhammad Hassan was there, he was going to be, world champion during that time, and he would have been the youngest world champion at the time.
But we had 9/11 happen, and
no, it wasn't because of 9/11. No, the character of Muhammad Hassan came in after 9/11.
Okay.
It wasn't because of it was because the reason why his character eventually died was because of the bombings in the UK at the time. And also that when he was on SmackDown at the time, now, mind you, nowadays, SmackDown is currently live. It's no longer pre-taped or pre-recorded. Back then, SmackDown was recorded on Tuesdays live, and it wouldn't air until Thursday.
Yeah.
Now, the bombing took place beforehand, and then they aired the episode right after the bombings happened.
But now, actually, I do think that because...
No, yeah, I'm going to get to that. But... But in that segment there, because that episode of SmackDown was when it was Muhammad Hassan feuding against The Undertaker at the time. Okay. And at the time, apparently he took away Daivari and Undertaker with these men, these men in ski masks, portraying them as if they were terrorists.
Right.
So that's pretty much why the character Muhammad Hassan had to be killed off.
Yeah.
Or, finished off because of, the
exactly.
the UK bombings.
And especially now with ISIS out there and those masks and shit, they couldn't. It's the same thing goes for movies like Die Hard.
Right.
Okay, you got to think, man. Die Hard, when that first came out, and I know I brought it up, but that was pretty ingenious.
Right.
Nowadays, that would never happen. There would never be another terrorist take over an airplane, terrorist take over a building, because we live in a day and age where terrorists are everywhere.
Right.
So 13 times.
13-time world champion, and, pretty good effort. Definitely, Bray Wyatt tried to perform Sister Abigail, on Orton twice, but even after the several Sister Abigails he performed, it still wasn't enough to beat him because he eventually lost. But I would have liked to have seen Bray Wyatt hold the title a little bit more longer than just in a month.
Yeah.
But, hopefully he might regain that title at some point.
Well, that was his first title, and he'd been on the main roster for almost 4 years, I think. Or 3 years.
No, he had won the, SmackDown Tag Team titles, not too long ago. Are you talking about Bray Wyatt or Randy Orton? Bray Wyatt, yeah, because a few months back, if you look back, when Randy Orton was teaming up with Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper, they won the SmackDown Tag Team titles.
I totally forgot about that.
Right. Bray Wyatt had never won a championship belt in WWE. The only time he had ever won a title was back in the FCW days when he was teaming up with his brother, Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
Which is his
weren't
real-life
they tag
brother.
teams?
They weren't tag teams at the time, so...
But that was even before the whole Bray Wyatt, when he was just Husky Harris.
Yeah, when he was Husky Harris at the time, yeah. But that was his first title win at the time. But after that match, then came the Universal Championship match, which was against Goldberg, who was the defending Universal Champion, and versus Brock Lesnar. Now that was a good match too. Yeah. Even though it lasted a little bit longer than it did, when Goldberg and Brock Lesnar faced over at Survivor Series last year. It's still a pretty good match. What I did like about that is that when JoJo was the announcer at the time, because they had different announcers for each match depending on which brand it is.
JoJo, dude.
Yeah,
I love
she's really
JoJo.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. And then when she was about to introduce Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman had to step in and said, "Nope, I'm his advocate. I'm announcing for him."
Right.
He does his he does his whole bit, as Paul Heyman does. I love Paul Heyman. He's really awesome. Whether he's a good face or heel, commentator.
He's a great act. He's a great folk. He's a great on the mic. Probably one of the best.
Really good on the mic. Yes.
Absolutely. When he was in ECW, when he ran ECW, any of those wrestlers still to this day will tell you, he would have these meetings right before the thing, and he would get you so pumped that it didn't fucking matter that you weren't making no fucking money that day. You were going out there and you were going to fight for this guy. This guy's like, blood, sweat, whatever he said, you're like,
yes.
Okay, yes. And then it'd be like, a couple weeks, it's like, Paul, why haven't I gotten home? Oh, I'll get back to that. Blood, sweat, and tears, let's do it. Let's make this place happen. Okay, Paul.
There you go. And then, so then the match started. There were definitely some, back and forth between, Goldberg giving, Brock Lesnar spears and tried to do some jackhammers on him.
And I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
I did see the very beginning, and the first thing that, of course, Brock does is he goes off and he starts superplexing this guy.
He does do German suplex on him.
He did, I think 3 or 4.
Three.
It
was
three. And he gets out from the third one, and he's like, turns right around,
Give us a spear, 2 spears.
Yeah, 2 spears, back to... And then he got him the third time when he went through the outside, where the ring belt person is. Because he went through that.
Yeah, he actually, speared Brock Lesnar to the, barricade where the timekeeper is.
Yeah.
And then, they came back in, and then he performed a jackhammer, on Brock Lesnar. And then, he was about to count 1, 2, 3, but Brock Lesnar kicked out of the jackhammer.
Nice.
Which is the first time
ever
that somebody kicked out of the spear jackhammer combo.
Right.
And then Goldberg tried to do a 4th spear, but Lesnar leapfrogged over Goldberg to avoid the spear, and Lesnar performed 7 more German suplexes. And
I think it was 13 in total he did.
Around there,
yeah.
Like that, yeah. And then you could hear the crowd, even myself, chanting Suplex City during that time. Yes. And he was even counting down the many times that he does the German suplex.
Kind of like, when they're doing the hits on the head, like 1, 2, 3, and they're probably doing this like 1, 2, 3.
Yes, and of course, in Paul Heyman's fashion, he keeps count.
Of course, man.
Yeah, and then, ended the match with basically Lesnar performing an F5 on Goldberg and winning the Universal Championship. And pretty much this is Goldberg's first, clean singles match loss of his career.
Yep.
Big time. I mean, that's definitely a big, moment. And, no matter what they say about Goldberg, especially, coming back so quick and becoming champion, he still had a decent run.
Right. And like I said before, I think what it probably came down to when they were, because I remember, it was only going to be for that one match at Survivor Series.
Right.
And then the next night he's like, I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to keep on going. I think they had it all planned out. I think they probably told him and said, okay, look, we're going to put the title on you. Like here, this point, you're going to keep it until then. But the thing is, you're going to have to lose at Mania.
Yeah.
You could have this great run, but you're going to lose at Mania.
Right.
And he's probably like, okay, because, anybody else would be like, no, I want to go over at Mania.
Right, exactly. But, all in all, it was a pretty good match.
Yeah.
Definitely, a decent match overall. Like, a lot of people were probably thinking, oh, it's going to suck because, the last few times, like, the match was going to be shorter and things like that. But, it was still a pretty decent match for it being, at least maybe 5 or 6 minutes long. Mm-hmm. But it was all right. Now, here comes the penultimate match, which is the second to last match of the show, which was the SmackDown Women's Championship 6-pack challenge match between Alexa Bliss, who was the defending champion at the time, facing off against Becky Lynch, Naomi, Mickie James, Natalya, and Carmella with James Ellsworth on her side.
Interesting.
That guy is a trip.
That guy has to get paid some really good money because I don't know if he's a real good wrestler, but he definitely plays that that role well of being a pussy.
Pretty much, yeah. I even saw some guy sitting in the same area I'm in who has a picture of James Ellsworth, and he says James Ellsworth less.
Nice.
Now, here's the funny bit. Now this is not related to the match, but this is something related that happened that night.
Okay.
So we're pretty much watching the match, which is still pretty good. Now, what happened around this time is that there were some drunk asshole motherfuckers that were sitting right behind us that are like in the very top higher up.
Okay.
Like there was a time earlier in the show that they were tossing like their drinks, out in the front, towards us, and some of the drinks, would come a little bit on us. Yeah. Now the second time that they did it, which was during that match, was where it would toss a little bit more drink out of it. And then we all looked back as to see who it was, but here's the thing: that drink almost hit a baby.
Oh,
yeah. So and the family who had the baby, they were really pissed off. They were just saying, like, who the fuck did that? Like, did anybody see who did that? And then there was another guy that saw him who did that.
Yeah.
And then they pretty much came up there and they were just chewing out those people. Like, they were all, like, at first they were all, those people who were, who threw the fucking cups at us.
Mm-hmm.
They were all, like, giddy, all laughing, thinking it's all funny. But when, when people went straight to their face about it, they all just got quiet fast.
Yeah.
Like, it even got to the point where they even called the police officer. They had they had cops there at the time, because it's Mania.
Of course.
Really big event.
Of course, man.
And then, the cop went there and pretty much told, the group of retards there to, pack their shit up. You got to go.
Yeah.
And they ended up leaving. And then what funny thing is that, our row, our whole section there was just pretty much looking up. And as they were leaving, everybody was just chanting, na, 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 hey, hey, hey. Goodbye.
Guys like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, well, don't be a fucking
No,
asshole.
they weren't like that. They were just like,
Yeah.
like they knew they fucked them. I'm like,
I know the type.
yeah, like
So back to the match.
Yeah, but back to the match. Definitely good. Definitely good match overall.
Surprising that it was the second to last match, though. I would think the Goldberg
especially.
match would have been.
Yeah, especially, and they had some good moments, especially in that match. They all came in strong at first, like with Becky Lynch, Naomi, Mickie James, Natalya, and Carmella.
Mm-hmm.
The eventual winner, came to Naomi when Naomi performed the Slay mission to Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss tapped, and she became the SmackDown Women's Champion.
For the second time,
and in her hometown of Orlando.
I was going to say, do you know that's probably the reason why she won? Was because it was in Orlando.
Usually WWE is not fond of having hometown winners.
That's fucked up, though.
I know. I'm like, whoa, like. Since when does Vince McMahon now accept hometown winners to win in their hometown?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think. No, okay, I don't know for sure because I'm not, I'm on the creative, but it seems like as far as the Divas Revolution, or whatever you want to call that, the women wrestlers revolution, that seems to me that's more of like a Stephanie thing than a McMahon or Triple H. Even though Triple H groomed them in NXT to become wrestler, become stars, but I think it's more. I think Stephanie's behind that more than Vince or Triple H.
I believe so too, because if you look back then, there weren't so many memorable matches, with the women's. I mean, aside from women like Lita, Trish Stratus, Mickie James, Beth Phoenix, Sable.
Yeah.
You didn't have that many back then because back in the day,
you had more of a tits and ass.
Pretty much it was pretty much eye candy. They were just
and that's
a lot of
like Lana. I've seen Lana was in that one match, and she's a valet.
Right.
That is what she is. She's hot as hell. That is what she is.
Right.
She's a model. She's eye candy. Do I think that she should be a wrestler? I don't know.
If she got enough training, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But then, we also heard that Eva Mendes or Eva Marie.
Rosa Mendes or Eva Marie.
Eva Marie, she quit or something. She's not.
I haven't. There hasn't been any talks about.
She deleted all her WWE stuff.
It must have been a DL thing.
Maybe, but it came out. So Naomi won, and then of course it was the match that everybody talked about, still talks about. And I got something to point out when you get done with this match.
Yeah, I'm not too fond of this match, especially given what we were given. But, at the same time, I can understand that. The main event, which was basically Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was definitely rooting for Undertaker because, I love The Undertaker, grew up watching him.
One of the greatest of all time.
Absolutely.
If not greatest of all time.
Especially when I first started watching wrestling during the rise of the Attitude Era around that time, which was really good. Now, the people who actually called this match was Michael Cole, JBL, and for the first time in a long time, Jim Ross.
And he actually signed a 2-year deal just to cover certain matches. He's not coming back as a full-time announcer, but he is going to call certain matches.
Absolutely. Now, honestly, when Roman Reigns first came in, it was a loud thunderous of boos,
right?
Because I'm sure people may not be aware if you're not into wrestling so much. the reason why Roman Reigns gets a lot of boos is because a lot of people don't like that. They believe that he's not a really good wrestler. He has very limited. Like they think that he has very limited style of moves. His mic skills aren't so great and things like that. But I've actually got to listen to some of the mic work that Roman Reigns did when he was first starting up, when he was in FCW. Mm-hmm. He can definitely talk.
Yeah.
The problem is that WWE is trying to push him as a face when it's not working. He works better as a heel. If you remember watching him, during the time when he came to the main roster with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins as the Shield, he didn't really talk very much. He didn't talk very much, but at the same time, when he did, he just pretty much said a few words just to make a point.
He'd be like, believe that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much all he would say, believe that.
Pretty much, yeah. And, when he talked, he meant business. And
yeah.
He let his actions speak for themselves.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm not one of those, I'm not a hipster and I'm not a bandwagon jumper or anything like that. I don't think Roman is a terrible wrestler.
I don't think so.
I think Roman...
He can have good matches.
Oh, damn right.
If you watched him last year against AJ Styles,
really
not
good
even
matches.
Not even just that, but even with other wrestlers, good matches.
Like when him and Baylor had that match to see who's going to be
number one. That was a good match.
I thought that was better than him and Rollins, man.
I just hate that, fans, jump on the dick ride the Boo Roman bandwagon.
Boo Roman.
No, fuck that, man. He has potential. It's just people are giving him a hard time.
Always.
But definitely, it was a pretty good match. Undertaker, performed a few choke slams on Roman Reigns on the announce table. Mm-hmm. There was even a time when they were at the announce table where Roman Reigns speared the Undertaker through the, announce table. Mm-hmm. And then what really irked me was that people still chanted, "You still suck," despite the fact that it was a good move.
Yeah.
And then, what do you call it? With Roman Reigns, he tried to perform like the Superman punch on him several times. Then after that, there were some times where Undertaker did perform like the Last Ride and even, pile drive Roman Reigns a few times, which were unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. Now, there was definitely some moments there when I was watching the match. Mm-hmm. There were some times where I felt that Roman Reigns was botching some of the moves.
Probably.
Because at first I was thinking, okay, I get that you're not the most favorite at this moment with WWE fans, but you're definitely telling I can tell that you're botching some moves.
Right.
And, I think it's just pretty much because, Undertaker's old and he's probably feeling bad that, he may think that he might be hurting him,
Well, that's what I told him. Like I've heard that from other people, about the botching thing. And I think I even pointed that out to you.
Because you did point it out to me.
Because you didn't look at it like that until I pointed out. I'm like, you got to think, dude. This is Roman Reigns. I mean...
He's a young guy.
He's a young guy. They're trying to make him the face. He knows that this is going to be his last match. He doesn't want to hurt the guy any more than he has to.
Right.
And it's also a respect thing.
Right.
Because over the years of all the stories anybody's ever told about the Taker, they know that he was the big dog. That was his yard, as in, like, the back locker room was his yard, too.
Right.
He was the one who held court back there. Somebody got out of line, you'd have to deal with the Taker.
Exactly.
Like that whole thing, what was it, WrestleMania 13 or 14, where it was Austin versus Michaels, and they didn't know if Michaels was going to do the deed and drop the title. And so Undertaker sat in Gorilla, put his gloves on. He said, quote unquote, if he didn't do the right job or do the right thing, it was going to be a long fucking night for Shawn Michaels. He was going to beat his ass.
Right.
And of course, Shawn, he's like, I've only heard that story, and Mark and I have he's never said I was going to fuck you up if you didn't drop the title or anything like that. So
right.
That could have been just fan talk. I don't know. It could have been, I mean, I did hear it come out of, the Undertaker's mouth. But
Right, exactly. But, with the way that it ended is that, when Roman Reigns gave Undertaker a fifth and final spear, that's when he pretty much pinned him 1, 2, 3, won the match. And a lot of people were definitely not happy that he won. And when he was about to walk up the ramp, he was holding his fists up high, and that's when it was a whole barrage of fireworks that came out.
Okay.
Pretty much simplifying that he is the big dog now.
Right.
And and that adds another loss for Undertaker, which is 23-2.
Yeah.
For WrestleMania.
Now,
this is where it gets sad at this moment. After Roman Reigns leaves, that's when, at the time, Taker put back on his hat and his coat and his everything. And then when it was just him by himself, the lights dimmed down to pretty much playing his theme song. That's when he laid down his hat, his coat, and his gloves down at the ring mat, walked out to the ramp, held his hand out one last time, and he disappeared down into the ramp.
which anyways don't know, that means symbolizing he's retiring.
That he's gonna be retiring, man.
Now,
And honestly, that almost made me cry because that's my childhood right there.
Yeah, and I talked to my best friend Brian. He was there, and I told him, I said, dude, how does it feel? Because he was there in 2007 and saw the "I Love You" kick that ended. Ric
I'm
Flair's
sorry, I love you kick. Yeah.
So technically, he's seen Flair's last match and he's seen Undertaker's last match.
Yep.
Both in the same arena, dude. And I told him that. He was like, yeah, well, yeah, whatever. It's like,
Yeah,
who cares?
but
I was like,
honestly,
who cares?
But I mean, I can understand why they did it because I mean, eventually they're gonna have to make somebody the big dog now. But I just wish that WWE can listen to the fans and try to groom Roman Reigns to be not try to be a face of the company, but try to make him a heel. Try to make him, try to give the fans a good reason to boo him.
Any great star, it's been proven, any great star is better as a heel first, and then you get people wanting to hate you. They already hate him, so make him hate you more. And then you have something, like a year and a half go by or whatever it is, this heel, you have something traumatic happen. Like, I don't know, Triple H comes out and beats the shit out of you with the sledgehammer and leaves you in the ring for blood and death. All the people will
sympathize with you.
Exactly. And they will be on him. And then he will turn into like a new Rock.
Yeah, because that's pretty much how The Rock was. When he first came in as Rocky Maivia, people hated him. Like, they actually said, they die, Rocky, die.
Die, Rocky,
and then
die.
when he joined the Nation of Domination, that's when he became a heel.
Yeah.
That's when they gave him more reason to hate, him. So.
And then when he joined the... what is the corporation? When he became the corporate champ.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
And then when he eventually became the people's champ, that's when people loved him again.
That was when he became what we all know as The Rock now.
Exactly. Yeah. But all in all, it was definitely a good WrestleMania, especially first time I've seen it live.
Now go to the next night at Raw. Roman comes out. Everybody's
they straight up booing him for 10 minutes.
And then he comes up like he's going to say something to Mike, and it's like, pussy, pussy. And he's like, pussy, or you suck.
You suck.
And
then there were points where somebody would say, shut the fuck up.
That's it. And then the only thing he said, which I thought was ingenious, and it gets you more heat on you, is when he looked at the camera and says, this is my yard now, and just drops the mic.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's
it.
a great way.
And I'm like, Roman, you just got more heat on you now, dude.
Exactly.
But then also, what else happened?
The Revival debuted.
Well, not just that.
But also not just the Revival debuting and being called up from NXT to Raw, but also the return of Finn Balor.
That's right.
The return of Finn Balor. That was exceptionally
the return of the Demon King. The Demon King, Finn Balor himself.
I hope that, we get to see some great things from here to come after that. But here's also another kicker, because after that Mania, Vince McMahon came out saying that there's going to be a superstar shakeup, which, as of this recording tonight, is going to be the superstar shakeup. Now, after we post this, on YouTube and everything like that, the shakeup would have already happened, and there would already be, the results would have happened at that time. So we don't know until after we post this over on YouTube. But then came in SmackDown Live. Now, here's some of the good highlights that happened there. Shane McMahon, came up and came in during that time, earlier in the night, and announced that, it was pretty much reiterating the superstar shakeup. And that's when AJ Styles came in later on after that, pretty much saying that, I better stay on SmackDown Live. Like, I better stay on SmackDown Live because I made this brand. And then he ended up, shaking, Shane's hand for having such a good match at Mania. And then he almost faked him out a bit.
Yeah. And then Shane was just like
funny.
sitting there looking. I'm like, okay, well, you want to go again?
There you go.
You want to go again, dude?
And then this was when I attended that SmackDown Live. And then there came up 2 call-ups from NXT. First one being the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, and Japan's very own Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah.
Which honestly, Shinsuke actually came out when Miz and Maurice, pretending to be John and Nikki, came out, tried to pretend to be him. Now, when I was facing where the ring is and the entryway was, I saw the violinist, getting ready to play. And when he was just playing, as soon as his theme song came up, everybody marked the fuck out.
Yeah, of course.
And and even myself marked out, and everybody, including myself, was singing along to Shinsuke's theme song as well. And
now the violinist only comes out on like special occasions, just like Finn Balor. Finn Balor only dresses up like the Demon King on certain occasions. He doesn't dress up all the time.
Right, exactly. And then for those who were watching,
it makes it more memorable.
Exactly.
Better.
And then for those who were watching at home and not being there at the live attendance, there was actually a dark match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Dolph Ziggler, which, it was a really good match, and it ended up being with, Shinsuke picking up the win. Which is really
Didn't he do his kick?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
He did the Kinshasa. Yes.
He takes people's heads off with that kick, man.
Yeah, definitely very good. But all in all, it was a great WrestleMania weekend. I had a great time, and hopefully they come back, in a couple more years back to Orlando, and we can watch WrestleMania again.
Well, supposedly they're going to put a Hall of Fame here too. At least that's what I heard.
That would be really nice.
Yeah, it would be.
That'd be really nice.
So all in all, it's a good time, huh?
Definitely a good time. I'm glad I went, and just want to end it off. And during that time I was watching WrestleMania, I was actually thinking about my brother because we were also wrestling fans, when we were growing up, and it would have been nice if he was with me and we would have watched WrestleMania together.
Of course, man.
Yeah,
good times.
But definitely good times.
All right. Well, that was a really good insight, really good review. Now we go to the Bodini Theater. Now, the Sir Lancelot could tell you that I don't know what's been going on with me here lately. I've been into this revival of the Butthole Surfers, and I remember. And it wasn't just here recently, like, it's been building for the past couple months, I think I said something to him, I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going on with this Paul Leary, fascination I have, but for some reason I can't stop listening to the Butthole Surfers. And then, I would call him, I'm like, we need to do an episode about Butthole Surfers, and he would go, dude, you don't want to do an episode about Butthole Surfers. You just want to do an episode about Paul Leary. You just want to find some reason to talk about the goddamn guitar player. So, and then there was another time where, I told him, I was like, dude, I'm 24 hours into this, and I've already bought 2 Butthole Surfers albums. I'm about ready to buy 2 more. I don't know what's going on. So, while that's all said and good, I feel like I wanted to do a review on the Butthole Surfers, and the only thing that they actually have out as a DVD, concert, whatever, it was released in 1986. It was recorded in Detroit in 1985. It's actually called A Blind Eye Sees All. If I had to describe the Butthole Surfers, it's really hard to describe, but the best way I can describe it is, if anybody wants to know where punk rock went from punk rock to alternative, the Butthole Surfers are definitely one of those bands that were straight up punks, but once you started doing drugs, that's when they started expanding their sound and wanted to do more trippy out, more crazy things. And this is no other than that. Gibby Hayes was the vocals. Paul Leary, the guitar player. King Coffey was drums. There's also another drummer, Teresa Taylor. So there is 2 drummers at the same time. When I was listening to Double Live, when I first was getting heavy into the Butthole Surfers, their sound was so heavy and so thick. I said, why is it so fucking loud? And you find out there's 2 fucking drummers, so it makes it even more bombastic, You also have Gibby doing saxophone work. He plays the saxophone. He plays, there's a song called Something where Malcolm, the bass player, actually drops the bass, picks up a tuba, and Gibby picks up the bass, and then Trevor's playing the tuba, and I don't even think, Paul actually sings the song, but it's very little vocals. It's mainly all about the moment of the song, and it's just an amazing show. Very psychedelic. In between the show, there's like an interview they're doing, or this guy is doing with the band. I would say it's in a hotel room. All the band members are in this bed together. Gibby starts going off on something about humankind and how like his people's been here for thousands of years, and you finally realize halfway through the interview, or as the movie progresses and the interview goes on, that he's definitely under the influence of LSD. I think every one of them are under the influence of LSD. They're also smoking weed during it. Going into the Butthole Surfers, I found out that they have always been advocates for psychoactive drugs, which is more or less another term for psychedelics. Anywhere from mescaline, LSD, shrooms, marijuana, Molly, anything, peyote, that kind of stuff. And I remember I was looking at the drug list. I'm like, okay, no cocaine, no crack, no heroin. Okay, that's cool. But in 1985, they were. It's not even considered alternative. I mean, like, if somebody goes and watches the music, there's people out there in the crowd that are bowing to them and like, oh my God, it's like a coming of, Jesus or something. And if anybody who doesn't know the band or doesn't know anything about that music goes in and watches it, they just think of it as just sound. They don't hear anything. They just are like, oh, what the fuck is this? It's two dumbasses, banging on the drum, and this guy who sings, and he's like in a bra in one sense, and then he's like just in his underwear in another one. Then there's another song where he comes out and he has all these fucking safety pins attached to his face and attached to his hair. So at one point he's singing and his whole face is covered in safety pins. Or not safety, but like the kind of pins you put on like a clothesline, and put the clothes on.
Like a bag of chips.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. And he has, I don't know, at least 50 to 100 on his face. And, and then Paul sometimes will sing the song, and his stuff is more of like a punk rock thing versus Gibby. Gibby is more of a, when he sings, he believes in that atmospheric stuff. When he sings, it echoes. He's very much into that stuff at the time. They end the set with a song called PSY, which at this time it wasn't really called PSY. They've called it the Psychedelic Jam or the Psychoactive Jam or just the Jam. And it was something that Paul Leary actually came up with on the guitar. It was one of the things, I think it was like 82, 83 when he actually came up with it. And it was more or less to show another side of the band, not just like, hey, let's go there, or just like be really crazy and like kooky and we're dressed fucking weird, and it shows his guitar playing, and still to this day, like whenever they play, it's always in their set list. It never has deviated. It didn't get recorded until I think it was like 91, but up to that point, a lot of their songs that you listen to, they were more or less like babies. They hadn't recorded them yet. They were just, I think they were only touring behind the Humpty Dumpty album, I think was the album they might have been touring behind with at this particular time. Paul Leary, said it before. I mean, I watch because of him. Out of all the people in the band, it seems like he's the only one who is a master at his guitar or at his thing. I mean, the other drummers, they're good drummers. But at one point, they just seem like they're just flaring around, like they're not actually trying to play, which I'm sure they are playing. Anytime the camera cuts to them, like, they don't sit down. They're both standing up the entire time. They never sit down. Trevor, the bass player, he actually, at certain times, he looks like Andy Warhol. And that's the thing, too, about the show. Every now and then, it seems like whenever they're playing a song, they'll show Trevor, just because he looks like Andy Warhol. And I was like, okay, we get the Andy Warhol thing. It's like, can you stop showing fucking Trevor? Okay, stop showing Trevor. But there's a lot of songs on there that don't have vocals or have very little vocals, and it's just more or less like an instrumental jam. Very jazzy, incorporated, avant-garde, whatever you want to call it. And like I said before, they were the band, kind of like the Flaming Lips, where they started out as punk rockers, but once they started taking drugs and, psychedelics, smoking weed, whatever, they're like, let's expand our sound. Let's do something different. We don't want to be... they still had the punk rock aesthetic, even though they really weren't playing punk rock. The only reason why they said punk rock was because, well, they looked like fucking hobos. I mean, they all look like fucking cretins. They all look like, fucking homeless people. But I mean, all in all, it was a good show. It's not the best. The best one I will always say, especially as a live album, is Double Live. I would say anybody, if you have the money, go and buy it, or you can go on YouTube and listen to it because both sides are up there. The sound quality on Double Live versus this movie is way better. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's way better. I also think the reason why that is because this was in '85. The Double Live album, I think it was recorded either between '87 or maybe '89. So at the, that's what 3-4 years from this. So by that time, I mean they've already have some more songs. They've obviously honed their craft a little bit better than when you've seen them before. Not saying that they were terrible in this movie. It was a great show. But I do prefer the Double Live versus this. I mean, but it wasn't ever recorded. And if it was recorded, we just haven't seen it. Just like I was on YouTube and I seen the Butthole Surfers perform at Lollapalooza in, I think, like 93. And that was an amazing fucking show. That was... And then kind of like when 90s came around, that was when they started going more towards an electronica era, or more electronica way. Doing like Pepper, or they came in from the 2000 album,
or Who Was in My Room Last Night.
That was more of like a heavy metal thing, yeah. I think, and that was actually the song that kicked off my Paul Leary phase. Was I was sitting there listening to this, I'm like, this guy, whoa, and then I listened to the rest of the album, and I'm like, this guy's a badass guitar player. Definitely, when we did the most underrated guitar players, he should have been right there. And I also, for some reason, years ago, Metallica did this guitar magazine that celebrated like the 30 years of their career or whatever, and they did this section or this article. It was Kurt and Adam Jones, and Kurt did his top 10 favorite or top 5 favorite guitar players, and then Adam did his. And the two that stood out for me the most was Ronaldo Jones. Ronaldo Jones from the Flaming Lips and Paul Leary. And still to this day, like whenever I put on a Butthole Surfers or I listen to the Flaming Lips, I always go back and I think in my mind about what Adam Jones said. And I still, even though I'm still discovering the Butthole Surfers, and I'm not saying like I'm discovering like I've never listened to the Butthole Surfers, but they were that band that I had to go back and re-listen to, re-evolve. So... But anyway, in all, I would definitely suggest go check it out. It's on YouTube. The movie's called The Blind Eye Sees All. It's a really good rockin' freak session, almost borderline like Frank Zappa, like that kind of kooky weirdness type of shit. And smoke a little on top of that, and then there you go. But go watch it. Also, Double Live. It's also on YouTube. Definitely check that one out too. That's definitely. I would even say that's probably one of my favorite live albums, actually. And you know me, live albums.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, well, in that sense, we're gonna go ahead and take our first break, and we will be back to start out our album, the album episode. What is the album? Albums.
Well, it's supposed to double album, so stay tuned. I mean, if you're watching this video, you already know what it is.
Yeah. So stay tuned, and until then, here's Yellow and Yellow's Corner.
I imagine my face must look like Medusa. I must have snakes for hair and eyes that can turn you into statues. Because no one can look me in the eyes. From the moment I step inside a room, everyone looks away. As if my face was glowing some bright color. Maybe a color too bright for you to look directly at. Better yet, I imagine I must look like something from The Walking Dead. Because no one ever gets close to me. Nobody dares to touch me, or to hug me, to kiss me. They all just run away every single time. I imagine that I resemble the terrors of the night, something from your worst nightmare. But there's nothing I can do about the way I look. I cannot change my face. I was born from fire. I came out of the belly of the beast. When the angels came by my bedside for a visit, I ate them all. I chewed on their carcasses while blood oozed from my mouth as I chewed on their rotten bones. So maybe I am like an animal. Maybe deep down inside I am a monster. But I have found my purpose. And maybe it is a monster in your closet. So, when you see me, maybe you should run.
everything is in its right place to record the segment. Now, I wouldn't say that for in Tom's case. In fact, I think that title's a little bit ironic, coming off the heels of what is arguably one of the most landmark albums of that decade.
It was the
90s.
album that killed Britpop.
And
it
that's
wasn't
OK
the
Computer.
Benz, it wasn't Pablo, it was OK Computer.
It really was. But, I mean, with an album of that magnitude comes, a serious load of stress. And I think with Tom York that really got to him. And, sometimes he'd have to call up Michael Stipe and be like, I can't do this anymore. And we still have a year and a half of this tour left. And he's like, all you got to do is isolate yourself. Shut the blinds and just keep reminding yourself, I'm not here. This isn't happening. And I think what's interesting about this first album we're about to talk about, Kid A, not only was it like the album that absolutely set them apart, if OK Computer didn't already do that, it was a complete shift in sound, but it was also the time where Tom York wanted to just put down the guitar. The band, the whole band, even Johnny and Ed, they would all say the same thing. They wanted to completely segregate themselves. So initially, the idea was to make like a double album, but eventually during the recording process because for those who don't know, Kid A and Amnesiac were both recorded in the exact same sessions, but like I said, it was supposed to be a double album. But
And like how you said before, like if OK Computer sent them from little guys to rock stars, then Kid A made them legends. This is the album that put them in.
But it also, I mean, as much as I love like everything Radiohead's ever done, I mean, that also pushed some people away a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean, when a band like maybe, I guess, we draw comparisons to them all the time, but Metallica, went a little
Flaming
bit more.
Lips. Flaming Lips is a very good band too. I actually read it up about Radiohead. There's been a lot of comparisons. God knows why. Radiohead thinks, they will think, Radiohead's the English version of the Flaming Lips. And then you hear, I've even said it before, like when the Flaming Lips on their later stuff, like Soft Bulletin or the Yoshi Battle of the Pink Bots, they were trying more or less to be like the American version of Radiohead. And I think there's only one Radiohead. And I love the Flaming Lips, but I love the old Flaming Lips. They should have just stuck with that fucking...
The thing is, like Yoshimi and stuff like that, those are some of my favorite Flaming Lips albums. But see, that's the thing. That's the beauty of it. But Radiohead is that example. If a band like makes a huge shift, then a lot of people say, "Oh, it's that band's Kid A."
Right.
And
or their Tommy, which we will talk about later.
Right. So paradigm shifting albums, not just for the genre that it's that it is, but also for the band. I mean, especially in Radiohead's case, that's why it's the prime example, because that was like a complete 180. Like, that is the 180.
Yeah, and
but
like how you said.
But at the same time, it doesn't come with influences from what I think has a huge connection with OK Computer. I mean, take a song like Optimistic. That song is very guitar driven.
Oh yeah.
So they didn't completely abandon it, I guess. But
that's
the first thing you hear on this album. Yeah, exactly. But the first thing you hear on this album is that synth. The chilling just...
It sets the tone for the album for all the way.
Yep.
It really does.
And that line where he's talking about sucking on a lemon, like he woke up sucking on a lemon, that is actually that's a reference to like the face somebody makes when they're like really stressed out or depressed.
Or sucking on a lemon.
Exactly. It's the same face, and like I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, because he's also talking about how he was feeling on the road during OK Computer.
Yeah.
A lot of these songs were written on the road, and it didn't flesh out completely until they hit the studio. Radiohead's just one of those bands, they don't know what's going to sound like until they get in there.
Yeah, and they definitely were a band that was all about taking a risk. There are other bands out there that don't believe in taking risk, and they are good bands. They do what they they're really good at it. But
I take a band like Slayer, who's like hardly ever abandoned their sound. In comparison to the other bands in the quote-unquote Big Four, they're the one that has been the most consistent with every album.
Well, and don't want to turn this into a Slayer thing, but, going back to Slayer, that's one of the reasons why, out of all the Big Four bands, I mean, their fan base is still huge because, they never sold out, they never did this, they never did. Yeah, but you know what? Eventually, that sound gets old. And going to Radiohead, when they were making this album, or when they had the concept of this album, it wasn't a make or break thing because, like what you said before, OK Computer was that blowing up album, and
not to mention that album is recorded in the Library of Congress, like the U.S. Library of Congress.
You're right, but it was like, where can we go now? We want to do something totally different, and they knew probably going in that, hey, you know what, we're going to lose a lot of fans, but you know what, hey, we can't please everyone. And the fans that we keep, those are the ones that are still in the front row today. Like when you go see them in concert. Oh yeah, this is my 15th or 16th show, or the first time I saw Radiohead was in like '93, or they toured Pablo Honey or something like that. But but I think this is when Johnny came in. This is the moment Johnny shined. Where all that schoolwork, all that stuff that he went to school with, he brought that into the band. Like with OK Computer, there was a little bit of soundscape, but it was nothing like Kid A.
I could see where it started with OK Computer because that album set them apart from like sounding like an album like the Bends.
Yeah.
Which that separated from Pablo Honey. I feel like the Bends is a lot more mature sounding, but still very like alt grungy type of thing, But there was the acoustic vibe to it too. I mean, take a song like Fake Plastic Trees, a beautiful song.
Great song.
It gave a certain finesse to their sound. And then OK Computer tops it off with some more like experimentation, like exit music for a film. Mm-hmm. Slow builder. But it pays off in the end.
Exactly.
I think that type of atmosphere is kicked into high gear when you listen to an album like Kid A or an Amnesiac for that matter, but we'll get to there. I mean, like, the title track on this album is just, to me it's my least favorite song on the album, but it still is an integral part to me.
Yeah.
Because it's nearly instrumental because you don't understand what he's saying. Very robotic. You'd really have to be tuning in if you want to catch on, like, one thing that he's saying.
Well, it's like everything is in the right place. The only thing he ever really says is, everything in the right place. That's the only thing he really ever says. He doesn't say anything else. And, it's not a song that needs anything else.
No, he's using his voice as more of an instrument in that song than a lead.
Yeah.
It's it's mind-boggling, really. And to top it all off, like, all the lyrics on this album were just drawn from a hat.
Really? I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. It was random lines that he just, like, he wrote them down, just threw them in a hat, and literally took it out. And I don't understand how songs can sound so cohesive with that kind of random methodology. I mean, take a song like How to Disappear Completely.
Oh, that is a great song.
I mean, somehow it I know.
It's sad.
It's painfully sad.
And I've told, I've said it before that this album it's a masterpiece in the sense that these songs weren't meant for radio. These songs weren't meant really to make videos. It was just meant to put on and listen to or go see them play live. I mean, yes, I understand they probably did make a music video and they might have put one of the songs on the radio, at least for briefly. But this song is about moments, and How to Disappear Completely is one of those moments. And same thing with Tree Fingers. Like, I listen to Tree Fingers and I get emotional. Like, I really do. Like, I get almost like a claustrophobic thing where I'm like, I'm really sad and I have no idea, and I could think of something, and then like all of a sudden, like I'll think about like my grandmother, and my grandmother has passed, and then all of a sudden like I start thinking about when I was a kid, and then the music's coming in, and I'm like, oh my God, and I start crying, and I'm like,
dude, that's all Johnny's like that thing that he plays. Like, it looks like a shelf almost.
But you were talking
he just
about
he tweaks it and he just pulls something, and that actually appears on like the first part of Idiot Eek.
Oh, really?
Is like that's all him doing those little.
Yeah.
It's like 4 chords, but it's played on this like stack, and it's got a name to it. It starts with an M. It's like 2 words. Like there was a documentary on this freaking instrument, and Johnny Greenwood is in it. Like he talks briefly in the interviews that he's in.
And you had mentioned Optimistic earlier. Now, when Tree Fingers gets over, it goes right into Optimistic, and so I look at those as like 2 songs. Kind of like Empty Spaces and Young Lust. I can't listen to one without the other. So I mean, like, listen to this, I'm depressed, or like I'm really sad, and then Optimistic kicks in, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, this is rocking. Whoa, wait a minute, hold up, I like that shit. You turn that up, and then it's like full on rock and roll.
There's a performance of that song. Is actually in is it the In Rainbows or
the basement one?
The basement section.
That's a good, yeah.
They play that song. I think that performance is wild. That's good.
That whole In Rainbows performance is wild.
Yeah, it's a trip.
But was this the first album that Nigel Goodrich produced, or was it OK Computer was the first one that he produced?
I think it was OK Computer.
Okay.
Because you got to think Nigel like that. Wait, was it the Bends?
I don't know. Mooch, look that up.
Yeah, look that up for us because
Kid A and
I'm pretty sure it was like one of the earlier 2 albums and not Pablo Honey because
he became like a 5th member.
Yeah.
Or like
they
the
keep
4th
saying that.
member.
Thomas said that I don't know how many times, dude.
Well, the basement is his, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Radiohead isn't the only artist to do from the basement section.
The White Stripes have done the basement. Sonic Youth's done the basement. The Raconteurs have done the basement. Who is it? Gnarls Barkley did the basement. There's been a lot of people doing the basement. And I love British. I love the Britain scene just in general because those people know... They know fucking rock and roll.
Dude, you brought up Gnarls Barkley. Since we're talking about Radiohead, I don't know what show it is, but they do a cover of Reckoner from In Rainbows.
Oh, shit.
And seeing CeeLo Green sing that song is angelic. I think it's a great cover, honestly.
CeeLo's it's just a great
And you see
vocalist,
Danger
period.
Mouse back there he's like getting super into it.
Yeah,
it's a great performance. But then I'm going to get to it, but I saw Radiohead play that same song. And
Nice.
Whew, that's another level of awesome.
That's a powerful statement there. I love people that could cover a song and make it their own. Did you find out what we needed to know, Mooch?
What did you look for?
We need to see if Nigel Godrich produced OK Computer, and if he did he also produce the Bends? Because we're
not the
sure.
Bends. OK Computer or Kid A.
Here's the thing. I don't know if he did the Bends.
I don't think. No. The guy who did the first Verve album was the one who did.
Oh, that's right.
The Bends.
That's right. You're
Nigel
right.
definitely did OK Computer.
Okay.
See, okay, there you go.
And he did a Kid A and he did Amnesiac. I know that. I
As
think
far
he
as-
still does it now, right?
He did the latest one.
So he's
Waiting
definitely the Rick Rubin.
Dude, I'm waiting for
Yeah, definitely did
from
Kid
the
A.
basement sessions for this album. I feel like they're gonna do it.
They should do it.
Yeah, the new songs are really good live.
Yeah.
And but I'll get to that in just a little bit. So, other songs that are noteworthy to bring up on the album, motion picture soundtrack.
Yeah.
That song is one that brings me to tears. Like the way the last line where he's singing, "I'll see you in the next life," and it's just.
Fading
That's
off.
powerful closer. And the national anthem, too, is powerful in a totally avant-garde sort of way.
Well, that opening bass line, that's so British. And, there's people out there and be like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, it's British. There's just a certain way, kind of like if you listen to, like, The Cure. Like, listen to The Cure or listen to Joy Division and listen to that bass. I mean, that's kind of like the same sense. I mean, I'm not saying it's completely like Cure or anything like that, but it's definitely like that British style of bass playing. We don't play the bass like that here in America.
Oh, man, that's true.
I mean, and I actually seen that. I saw that song live, and That was actually really interesting. Live
Wait, you
version.
saw that song live?
On YouTube, man. Like, I didn't see
Oh, okay. I was like,
No,
why? You seen Radiohead too?
No, I wish. No, yeah, and I never told you. I never told you I've seen Radiohead.
Yeah, that was a great album, and then of course its sister album, Amnesiac. Now, this is an album that set them apart too. I think is really underrated because I can see why they didn't want to make it like a double album. They wanted this represented in two completely different ideas, not associated with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too late that they're associated with each other because same sessions, but they wanted it to be completely separate. So 6 months apart for release. This comes out way more like jazz influence. Some of the stuff is very funky. I mean, take a song like I Might Be Wrong. That guitar riff is the riff that goes on and on and on and on throughout the song, but they somehow make it change. It's crazy.
I mean, and it's one of those things where, like, when you think about the sessions, you know, you're like, man, Johnny's he's just worrying about the electronic stuff. He's not doing, and all of a sudden he comes up with that riff, and you're like, I should have never questioned Johnny about anything. I was like, there's a reason why Johnny's the mastermind.
Also, you think of us like the Tree Fingers is to Kid A as Hunting Bears is to Amnesiac. That whole thing is just like him wailing on the guitar very eerily for like a minute and a half. They actually, last night in Portland, they closed the song out with that. That little Hunting Bears interlude.
Was it Knives Out, the one where he's like, I want you to know?
Oh, the Knives Out, yeah.
That was off Amnesiac, wasn't it? Yeah, I love that song.
Me too. One of my favorites off that album. And of course, we can't not talk about Pyramid Song.
No.
That, I don't know what time signature that's even in. Some people are like, oh, it's 4/4. They just accent it weird. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. If you play 4/4 over that, it's not going to sound the same.
It's not going to sound probably in the same ball field.
Even today, Tom York and I think all the guys in Radiohead, really, I think Ed has said this too, maybe Phil at some point, but they'll all tell you that's the best song they've ever written.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot saying. I mean, yeah. Wow.
I know, and it shows, because the time signature is really weird. Everybody knows their place in that song. The lyrics are gorgeous, and it just swells, and it's just a nice way to kind of introduce the album after a track like Packed Like Sardines in a Croatian Can. That track's very reminiscent of Kid A because it's electronic, and then it goes into that piano ballad, and then there's pull revolving doors. It's just, that one's very
Weird.
I would say it's weirder than Kid A. Amnesiac's just the weirder one, you know? I mean, Kid A was super experimental, and so was this, but I think it was good that they were represented as two different projects.
Do you ever see him maybe one day ever putting them both together in like one long piece, like a wall almost? You ever see him maybe doing that?
No. I don't think they'll revisit that. No. I think if they were going to do a double album, they would do it as a new project.
Right, okay.
They would just write more stuff. I don't see Radiohead stopping, not even after this album, which feels, I mean, it kind of feels like if this was their last album, then it sounds like it would be appropriate. But people were saying that within Rainbows. People were saying that with the King of Limbs. You know, I feel like that they're just a band that takes their time.
I don't think, it's kind of like Floyd. I mean, I've always thought of them as the newer Floyd, or like this generation's Floyd, because of the simple fact that they're band and with the adding the machine, so to speak, into the music and stuff, and how their live shows are, I mean, fucking out there, as a live presentation or as a band, but. I mean, yeah, like you said, I don't really see them stopping. I mean, they might take a break, a couple of years here or there, but they're going to come back.
Big time.
It's like a fighter. You may retire, but you obviously have to be around it. It's like a drug. I mean, Tom might have said, "Oh, I don't want to play the electric guitar anymore, this and that." But guess what? It didn't last very long because, I think what it was, like Hail to the Thief or whatever, he picked up electric guitar again.
Yep. And the first song on that album, too, is like a rock banger.
Yeah.
2 + 2 is 5.
That's a good song.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of like guitar driven, like They're There, Go to Sleep. Even Wolf at the Door, as like quiet as it is, has loud guitars in it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Great era for them. We're actually gonna take a short break now and come back and talk about what it was like to see Radiohead during this time. Because of course, like we were saying earlier, this is a band that wanted to reinvent themselves. So what does that mean for the older material?
What does that mean as a live band? Like, how are they gonna, some of those songs you're thinking like, there's no fucking way they can play that live.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You obviously don't know Radiohead, and like you said, that's where that machine comes in available. So we're gonna take a quick break, come back, finish up this. Old Lancelot has a concert to review. He actually did recently see the very first show of the new Radiohead tour. So we'll be back in just a moment.
So, like we were saying before the break, what was it like to see Radiohead during this time? What was it like to see them in their paradigm shift?
Yeah.
Like complete, here's Japan over here, you dig a hole through the center of the earth, all the way through the other side and you're in California.
Yeah.
Like that big of a shift for them.
Right. I think it would be like, I remember, I think MTV did something around that time. I think it was maybe like 120 minutes or something where they had Radiohead was somewhere and they were playing songs from that album. And only thing I can remember is it being sort of like a rave. It was with that kind of music mixed in with the rock that, Radiohead did over the years. Because it doesn't matter, you could have a song like Paranoid Android, but and then you see them play Paranoid Android during the Kid A era, it's going to be a different version than what it was in 1997. That's all I'm saying. They brought those songs, the old songs, and kind of Kid A them, so to speak. They played them in that era, like that time.
Exactly.
And they, I like bands that do shit like that. Like if there's a song that originally it was like a high tempo song, really fast, really heavy, then when you see them like a couple years later perform the song live, it's slowed down. It has another meaning than what you originally thought it was, or that you actually start listening to the fucking lyrics.
Because you're hearing it in a new mood.
Yeah.
I think, and I'll get to it in a little bit, but when I saw them play Let Down, that had a different feel to me. I think more so like in comparison to the other songs they played, as like, okay, they made this song something a little bit more special now.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit more heavenly. I mean, more than that song already was on OK Computer.
Yeah.
But
I mean, going back to Optimistic, like from the Basement Sessions, you listen to Optimistic from the Basement Sessions. Yeah, it has a little bit of a Kid A feel to it, but for me, it seems like it's more stripped down, like the whole ambience kind of thing just kind of faded down.
And it's more bass heavy than the studio version.
Absolutely. But see, if you went and seen, I remember listening to Optimistic, I think it was either on the Jules Holland show or the BBC sessions around that time, because it's on the deluxe edition of Kid A. And that was, I mean, it was a lot more heavier than the Basement set, or not than the Basement, later on the
right.
in Rainbows and stuff. It was more of a trippy psychedelic kind of deal than what was on the album or what was later version of the song.
Like you take any of the performances starting in the year 2000 all the way up through, I'd say like 2004, very much electronic heavy. I mean, even if they play a song like, I brought this song up earlier, but I might be wrong. I think it has more of the electronic feel to it. And when I saw them play Morning Bell, they did the Kid A version. Now, not a whole lot of people know this, and even in the fan base, you'll hear them say,
I don't mean to cut you off, but isn't there 2 Morning Bells like on each album, right? Okay.
There's one for Kid A and one for Amnesiac. The one for Amnesiac is the one that was written first. And, I mean, people don't understand that because I still see people say today that the Morning Bell version on Kid A is superior and the Amnesiac version was them ripping that song off. But It's the other way around. I mean, they made that song better for Kid A.
Yeah. And how could you say that Radiohead's ripping off Radiohead? I mean, it's just Radiohead being Radiohead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if there's 2 versions of the same song. Do I prefer the Kid A version? Yeah. I like it sounds very skeletal and more stripped down than, not stripped down, but it feels more monotone.
Yeah.
And the Amnesiac one sounds more stripped back, more focused on the strings and acoustics than the Kid A one.
Right.
So, I just think it's funny people still say, oh, well, Amnesiac is, not as special because it's ripping off Kid A, when in reality, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
But seeing them play that live, and, even right now, it sounds a lot more full than if you were to see them during Kid A era, because that's, again, very electronic based. There's more, like, experimentation going on, because that was them at their, like, experimental peak, I would say, with Kid A and Amnesiac. And ambitious, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but, going back to the Morning Bells, and I'm not comparing them in any way. I'm just saying there's in this song, though, you have Morning Bell and the Morning Bell. And then, like, when you look at, like, Use Your Illusions 1 or 2, you had the Don't Cry, and then you had another Don't Cry. And both songs are played the same, but there's different lyrics to both songs, I prefer the one that's on Use Your Illusion 1 versus the Use Your Illusion 2, but even though I used to love the Use Your Illusion 2 version, but it still has that dramatic feel to it, and that same, it's exactly the same, just different lyrics. I don't know why they did that.
Right.
But,
Well, that's a great comparison, too. I mean, you can't knock on a band for trying something new with an idea, They wanted to make one version that sounded full and one version that was a little bit more monotone.
Right.
And I like the monotone Kid A version, but you can't deny that the other's really good on its own, because that sounds like Amnesiac. If you're just talking about that version, it's way more blissful. It's very, it's kind of heavenly sounding, and then the Kid A one feels a little bit more hellish. It feels, very flat-lined, but it fits that song. So
yeah.
Or you get a mood like Tree Fingers versus Hunting Bears. You see them play that stuff live. I mean, they didn't touch Tree Fingers all that much, which is kind of sad because...
Well, I would think like they wouldn't really perform that song too much.
They've only done it a handful of times.
And I remember I did send you that video, which I thought it was, them actually live doing the entire Kid A, but it was actually, different Kid A songs from different eras of their career. And I heard the Tree Fingers version, and I don't know, man. It just didn't. Maybe it wasn't recorded right, but it just didn't sound right live. At least for that time, because there's bands that sound better in like an amphitheater or like a smaller venue versus like a open air kind of big old giant festival thing. Some bands can play that and some bands can't. I mean Radiohead.
Some bands can do both of those.
Yeah, they can, but like any other band, I would rather see them, in an intimate setting versus something that there's like 150,000 people behind me.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god, I can't fucking move. But there's bands that can do that can play off sounds, and Pete Towns was definitely one of them. How he would hit a certain chord and he knew exactly how to zing that on out there where it would just echo, like to that one guy that was sitting out there so far away. And going back to Radiohead, I mean, this was the era that set them apart from every other band. This is when Radiohead became great.
Yeah,
legends.
because OK Computer brought them out of like the British scene.
Yeah.
And then Kid A Amnesiac pushed them to just that they were in a league of their own at
Absolutely,
that point.
Yeah. And there was no more like, oh, Kid A, or not Kid A, but Radiohead's gonna be opening for this band, or no, they were calling the shots after that. Everything was, I'm sure they called the shots before, but not like after this is when they were like, hey, we're not playing for like 3 hours tonight.
Especially now, but they do it just voluntarily.
Yeah.
Like, I'm about to talk about the Miami gig, which was, I didn't expect what I was expecting. Like, I went in there thinking I'm seeing one of my favorite bands. Like, I'm just knocking this on my bucket list. We're good to go.
Right.
I came out thinking it was like a religious experience. I mean, they came out for 2 different encores that were just near perfect. And actually, if you look at the set list now, The Tourists was the last song on the first encore. Mm-hmm. And they played that just that one night. And they haven't played it so far for the rest of this tour. Right. It's a tour debut, so that also includes all the dates in 2016, because that song in particular they haven't played since like 2008.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Near a century. And they've been doing a lot of stuff like that. They played House of Cards one night, Where I End and You Begin, and these are songs they haven't played for a very long time, just like that. So it was a really like an awesome treat to see that song. Some of my favorites, especially off In Rainbows, because that was like the album that got me into them. It made me even go back to when I was like first discovering them, and I listened to not OK Computer, but In Rainbows all the way through for the first time.
Yeah.
Like I thought, 15 Step is cool, Body Snatchers is nice, and then Nude made me want to just get everything.
Yeah.
Seeing them play that song was one of my favorites too, and Reckoner was great. Airbag was a nice surprise too, after because they started off with like a 3-song streak of the new stuff, and then they played Airbag, and I was wondering too, because OK Computer just turned 20. This is the first stop of the tour. Nobody knew what they were gonna do. I was wondering how much they were gonna, bring up from OK Computer, just kind of praise that album a little bit by playing some deep cuts, and they did. Climbing Up the Walls was on there. The Tourist, obviously. Airbag. Let Down was great, too.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Oh, they played No Surprises.
Okay.
That was cool, because when Tom sings, like, Bring Down the Government, They Don't Speak for Us, everybody just started screaming after that, and I was like, wow, that's powerful. And you know how you were saying with the Fireflies thing from earlier?
Yeah.
Similar thing when they played Fake Plastic Trees. Everybody got their phones out, and I was like, wow. Yeah. Like, the phones were brighter than the actual stage. And that's amazing.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I say I've seen Radiohead, I'm just talking about from either concert films. I've never seen them live, and that's definitely is a bucket list band. And I've even said if it would have been in Tampa or Orlando, I'd have been right there with you. There would have been no. But, I mean, Miami's Miami, and I really don't even know if there ever be a band that I would ever actually do that for. I really don't know. I could never make. I mean, maybe if Pink Floyd, even though it's only 3 members, but if Raj and Dave got back together and it was only Miami, yeah, I would probably go down to Miami to see it. But that'd be it. There would never be no other band that I would do that for. It's not. And I'm like, hey, just come to Orlando. You're obviously going to come by here sometime. I mean, and that's the thing about our town is I don't understand why. Because we have such fucking. This is the most populated out of probably, or maybe next to Miami, most populated place in Florida. So I don't see why we don't have more shows come through here than we do. I don't know because sometimes a band will come to Orlando and then on the next tour cycle they won't come to Orlando but they'll go to Tampa. Or they go to Miami.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's a way for
just like I can think of several bands like Deftones. We talked about them last episode. Last year they were at House of Blues, caught that show, and now they're in Tampa with Rise Against. So.
I mean, when I saw Tool, I saw them in Orlando in 2001, and then I saw them again in Daytona in 2002. Now, that's not a far drive. I'll drive to Daytona to see a show, but. That was the best Tool show. Mike Patton was at that show.
Nice.
Tomahawk.
Yep. Yeah.
We'll say that for another show. But, I was looking at that set list when you sent it to me, and I even went on the thing, and it said, this hasn't been played since then. Some of these songs, it might have been 3 or 4 years since they played them, but it'll still say, it hasn't been played since, this date or that date. And then... going back to Creep, was it last year before last when they bust that song out and it had been 15 years since they even played it. And people were like, sometimes you probably get boos, but it's dude, it's 15 years, get the fuck off. I want to hear that riff, yeah. I mean, and just that, look, and fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people give that song shit, people give that album shit.
I don't know why, that album was fucking heavy for its time, bro.
I like it, yeah, but I mean, to me, it's a good album. I could tell you several songs.
I love the Bends more.
Prove Yourself, Blowout,
I love Blowout.
Allergy.
Blowout was better. I think I told you. I seen it from Astoria in '94, and it was the last song they played. And Tom goes over to Johnny, and he whispers something into his ear. And when he says something to him, Johnny gives him this look, come on, man, and then Tom's like, yeah, you know it, just watch. So I always think in my head he probably told him, I'm gonna fuck shit up during this part. I'm really gonna bring shit, I'm gonna kill shit. And he's like, yeah, okay. He's like, yeah, just watch. And of course, by the end of the show, fucking it's all this anarchy, chaos, fucking aggro, just and he's like, and then just throws the mic down.
Yeah, dude, Tom used to be able to scream, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Climbing Up the Walls, that has one of his most intense ever.
I think I've always thought that Radiohead were definitely aliens. I think they are not from this planet. If there is that conspiracy that aliens are actually human beings, that there's some aliens that look like humans, Radiohead's definitely aliens. I don't think they're from this planet. I mean, their parents may be humans and they may actually have residency on this planet, but nah, man, their music is so fucking perfect. It really is. I mean, whether you like it or don't like it, or there's an era that you love more than you hate it, it's just
And I think it really takes a special band to not only get, your music critics, your pitchforks, your Rolling Stones, your, and the other side of it too is the general fan base, the people that are into R&B, the people that are into disco if they're still alive, or country or rock or whatever, you name it, dude. It takes a special band to have something to offer for everybody with different angles as to how they view music, as well as tastes. Radiohead is one of the few artists just in general that have been able to do that. Somehow.
Yeah. And, Radiohead's another one of those bands that could be spoken about when they talk about the Beatles or they talk about, like I said, about Floyd. Their catalog as far as a whole, I mean, it's legendary. The band's legendary. Their status now, you know, they could go into the Hall of Fame. They can go in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They can go anywhere they want to. They're that fucking good. I know Johnny's done a lot of soundtracks, and you know that's what he does now is soundtracks.
Speaking of which, if you haven't heard Johnny's like compositions for film, highly recommend There Will Be Blood. I mean, it's probably his most celebrated, but for a reason. Like, wow, that's good.
Yeah.
And Tom York, of course, has collaborated with Flea to do Atoms for Peace. He's at his own solo project. He's worked with Flying Lotus. I mean, he's all over the map too. But of course, you got Colin doing side projects, and Ed, Phil. And here's another thing about Radiohead too that makes them special. That lineup has never changed. Once.
No.
And it's always been those 5 guys.
And it's the same thing we said about, Mastodon. It's been 17 years. Not one member has quit the band. And I know it's been longer for Radiohead, but I think once you get to that point as a band or as a unit, if somebody was to die or hey, I don't want to do this no more. I don't think there's that sense with these guys. As if that was the sense, they would have broken up years ago. That's the reason why they might release an album every 3 or 4 years. They're doing it on their own time. Hey, we still want to be in this band just as much as this guy does, but we don't want to always just do it. And, either that happens or the guy or somebody dies. I see the only way the band would end is if somebody was to die. That's the only way I would see the band ever ending.
I know.
I hope, it goes back to Freddie Mercury when I seen The Days of Our Lives. It was at Wembley, and he says, there's a lot of rumors that we're going to break up and we're going to stay together until we fucking well die. And of course that was true. Because, the band, after he died, of course the band ended, or at least for, 10, 15 years, and then they got Paul Rogers.
Yeah, I know.
But, so anyway, man, so all in all, it's a good show, right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the chance to, they're doing this long tour now. Go catch them all you can. I know they're going to go overseas in the summer.
Play some shows in their own hometown and home country, Europe.
Exactly.
Japan, Australia, wherever.
Germany.
Yeah.
I know the Belgium show is like sold out. It was been sold out. So. And, of course, all the other shows that are going over there. I think they might be playing Glastonbury. Check them out. They're playing Coachella this coming weekend and next weekend because it's a 2-weekend thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And, yeah, it's phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
Well
and they make every show special.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's it seemed like they're like the Pearl Jam. Like I said, every show's different. It's obviously been true in this tour because there's been songs that they've whipped out that they haven't played in years. Deep cuts. And that's what fans want to see, man. They don't want to go and just see like, okay, play a generic fucking set list. No, that's they wouldn't do that.
Right.
Of course, I would never say Pearl Jam's generic, but there's going to be definitely some songs that they're going to play that they always play, like alive. They're always going to play alive. I don't think there's ever been a show where they didn't play alive. But anyway, well, it looks like we came to that down that time. Time to take that dusty trail and head on out. So until then, I am the Great Boudini.
And I'm Sir Lancelot.
And until we meet again, like the great Eddie Vedder said, we'll see you on the flip side.
So, I don't know how I managed to do this, but I got a Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is just because ever since it came out, unless you had a pre-order, you had to pretty much scramble to get one. Mm-hmm. And they're not readily available. But Nintendo thinks it's a good idea to, like, actually market the hell out of this right now. Mm-hmm. So, like, I saw, like, an article where somebody was at the movie theater and they played, like, a Switch ad. And then somebody yells out, yeah, I know, I want to buy one. Like, where can I buy one? You know, show me a place I can get it. It's nowhere. And if it is, it's gone within, like, minutes, hours, if it's, like, at a physical location. And
that's the way it was.
Because people are calling in and asking, like, hey, do you have it? You know, is it coming in today? Mm. Like, Toys R Us, Walmart, Target, GameStop, Best Buy just sell out like that. Even if it's in the bundle, like there's bundles where you can get Zelda with this, with certain like Joy-Cons and like the Pro Controller and stuff for like over $400, but it comes with all these like accessories. Or the system itself is $300. I think that's a good deal.
Yeah, that's not bad actually.
The Wii was like that at first too.
Yeah, Nintendo's more reasonable with their console prices than like PlayStation or Xbox. And I've seen some companies come out and say, like, because Xbox has the Xbox Scorpio project that is kind of under wraps right now, but it's supposed to be, like, their next big console. Mm-hmm. And companies have come out and said, like, no, we're going to focus on the Switch. We're not, you know, our focus is on this. Because the hardware itself is more revolutionary than any console I've seen lately.
Right. And then
the hardware is a lot more, like, it's useful. It's portable. You can use it as a home console. While it's on the dock, it charges. I mean, I don't see how this hasn't happened already. You know what I mean?
Game Boy too.
Yeah, because I mean the screen is obviously like LED little screen with a lithium battery. It's a tablet.
Can you watch movies on that thing?
They're going to bring Netflix and Hulu.
It's a work in progress.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it's a work in progress right now.
Because I was just looking at that screen, I'm like, I could definitely see Netflix on that.
Yeah, and I would want that because I could go watch a movie on this, and then if I'm done watching that, just instantly go and play a game or something, you know?
Hell yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a Nintendo iPad, but really, I mean, who's better at making video games than somebody like Nintendo? They've been doing it for a long-ass time, so...
Long time.
If you're more video game centric, this is like the perfect console to have.
Since the
and
NES.
People are saying it's so easy to port over to this too. So we're going to be seeing many like third party titles come to this. Like Skyrim is already scheduled. Square Enix stuff like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. I'm sure that's going to come to this eventually.
Kingdom Hearts 3, I can't wait.
I know. That's why I have the PS4 sitting there too, because I mean, I got to make sure I'm playing that. That like I grew up with those two games.
My friend has been hounding me to get myself a PS4 because he's waiting for Destiny 2 to come out.
Yes, I'm gonna get that too.
Yeah, but if I were to get a PS4, I mean, I'll give that a try. But mainly, I would definitely get the Kingdom Hearts games.
You know what I found out though? I like to watch walkthroughs on on YouTube and just like watch a video game walkthrough, like especially if it's a game that I haven't played in forever. But I was going through it and I watched the walkthrough of Mario Brothers 2. Okay, I watched walkthrough. Then over on the recommended videos, there's another one that says Mario Brothers 2. Okay, and I clicked on it, and it was more or less in the same vein that Part 1 was. Like it was in that same like style, whatever. Have you seen the Part 2, the one where like I guess Mario is asleep?
Well, it depends. Oh, that game, but
okay.
I guess it would depend on like the YouTuber.
Now, this Part 2, come to find out that there was two versions. There was Part 1. There's Part 2 that we had in America, which was the one that Mario went to sleep and he had the whole thing was a dream. And then Part 2 that came out in Japan was in the same vein that Part 1 was. Now, we didn't get Part 2, the Japan Part 2, until the Mario All-Stars came out in Super Nintendo, and that was actually the Lost World.
Lost Levels. The reason why is because the actual Super Mario 2 in Japan is much harder. So
because they had like a more there's more intense world. I played it because
me too.
There's a Super Mario Brothers 2 that came out here, and there's the one that came out in Japan that looks exactly like
Part
the
1.
first one.
Yeah, and the thing is too is that the Super Mario Brothers 2 that we got here is actually Doki Doki Panic, but reskinned with Mario characters.
And I didn't care for that at all. I mean, I that's my least favorite, and because It's just fucking stupid. I mean, I remember I played it and somebody was like, it was Mario Brothers, but it wasn't Mario Brothers. You know, it was like.
But
Mario
at the
took a
same
nap.
time, if it wasn't for for the North America Super Mario Brothers 2, you know, some of the characters that were in that game wouldn't have made it to later games. Like, especially when you have the Shy Guys and the Bombs, you know,
The
characters like
Koopa
that.
Troopas.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I remember because I remember when I had the All Stars, or friends that had the All Stars. I'm like, yeah, let's play this Lost Levels, and I'm like, hey, you know, it's like I said, it was in the same vein as Part 1, but it was fucking hard, man.
Yeah, I couldn't
like
beat it.
I couldn't even come close. Like the first level, but I think one of the reasons why that was because. Like, I didn't play it all the time. Like, if we had that version here in America, yeah, I could have whipped its ass. I would have probably been, like, king of it. You know, like, the first game, how I played it so much, like, I used to do speed records to see how long it could take
runs?
me. Yeah, just to see how long it would take me to beat the fucking game. I remember one time I beat the entire game with 1 life. But then again, I did skip, like, you know, where you're in part 2.
You're in the second 2 and you go over the
4,
thing.
and then you could take the beanstalk up to level 8. Yeah, I remember I was at a cousin's house, and she was like, "Oh, you want to play this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And you know, I was like, I was like 13 or 14 at the time. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So 1 life, and they all were like, "Oh my god, that's amazing." I'm like, "Really? And you guys find that amazing? Get the fuck out of here! That's fucking lame." You know. But I miss all those old games, man. I mean, and that's the thing. Like when we were looking at the Switch at Best Buy, and I told him, I was like, that a lot of that reminds me of like Nintendo 64, especially like the Mario version. Like there's like some Mario game that they were demoing. I was like, that looks like 64 Mario.
Yeah, that's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah.
Mario Odyssey, is that
Odyssey,
the one?
yeah, Mario
Yeah,
Odyssey.
that comes out like holiday season.
I mean, the only reason why I would buy the Switch is just so I can download old school games. I don't really care about any of this, you know, Netflix on it. That's it. You know, I would want it just for the old school games.
Zelda is amazing, though. You guys play Zelda.
Try the new games, and if you do get it, try the new games at least, and then see.
Of course I will.
It's very much in the vein of the first Zelda game. Like, it just kind of like Zelda Breath of the Wild. There you go. Just do whatever. There's no linear path. I mean, same with the very first Zelda. You just go in the cave. Oh, take this with you. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then you just go.
Now it's
You don't
more
know.
in depth and like
It's
take
more
this.
detailed and realistic.
Yep.
You know, it's like it's item stock based. You have like a paraglider. You can mount a horse. It's just, it feels very like, it's like Zelda Braveheart almost.
Yeah,
because the nature scheme is just amazing.
They gave it a comparison. It was like, oh, Zelda in like 85 or whenever the first one came out, and Zelda in 2017, and it's so different, man. It's like Zelda was like a little shit, like like that, you know, and then now Zelda's like a real life person, and there's like this whole world out there, and you know, you actually go into the woods, and you are actually in the woods, not a fucking aerial view of like a little shithead walking around.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when you go in the dungeon and you see ghosts, you're gonna see actual ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I like about it. It's all right. But on that note, cue a toilet flush.